Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another night of the Kart Rider Drift League. My name is William Cho, joined by State. It's our first time casting anything together, actually.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, we've kind of run into each other across different events and all sorts of things, but we've never actually sat together on a casting desk. But should be another good one. I mean, even with a weekday, we've got 3 team matches today, so fans are still filing in, and I think we should have a big crowd today.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. This is also my first time casting a Wednesday day here at the Kart Rider Drift League. Yeah, so I've been spoiled with all the solo matches.
Yeah,
today we're getting 3 team matches. Should be a lot of fun, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you, man. I've been admiring your cast. It's been been good.
Appreciate it. I mean, obviously, we're all still trying to just figure things out for Kart Rider Drift. Even the players themselves are really switching things up on their build. But this is what we have planned out for the preseason 1 of the KDL. Those of you who have been following will know we've got 8 teams, and they'll be going through kind of a round robin in the main stage. And then afterwards, they go through the postseason in a double elimination bracket.
Yeah, the top 4 teams from the round format will advance to the postseason. Of course, a lot of prize money up for grabs. 40 million Korean won there for first place, just shy of 40,000 US dollars. As we look at our standings right here, KWANGDONG FREECS right now, big storyline I'm watching is, can anybody stop this team? Because, you know, looking at the standings and coming into last week, I was thinking, you know, Liiv SANDBOX might be the one team that can do it, but with Seungha out, they were not able to defeat the FREECS, and the FREECS might be looking at a perfect 7-0 round robin here in preseason.
It is looking likely, right? I mean, we all thought maybe it would be kind of this close matchup between SANDBOX and FREECS, and yes, it wasn't one-sided by any means, but FREECS come out on top, and now Liiv SANDBOX, the ones who will try to keep that second place. Meanwhile, FREECS are comfy undefeated at the top. And speaking of those teams, we'll see both of them today with Liiv SANDBOX kicking off match 19 against Planet, and then KWANGDONG FREECS against ReBoot in match 20.
Yep, and then rounding it out today, it'll be Sensation versus ROX, 2 teams that are struggling a little bit. They're kind of on the precipice of qualifying for that postseason. Sensation, they really need a win here. They've been struggling hard. In fact, both of these teams struggling hard, specifically in item mode throughout the entire league. I don't think they've won a single set.
I believe so.
In item mode. So at least today, one of these teams will win an item mode set.
They'll finally get their first W in item mode. We'll take a look at the actual game to see if it's worth counting or not. But yeah, that awaits to be seen. But I'm glad you brought that up, right? I mean, in the team leagues and then the team matches, you do have to kind of choose which part you focus on. You can't just be good at just the speed mode or the item mode. You eventually have to find some sort of balance, because otherwise you'll always be pushed to the very edge of those ace matches, which I think with the 3 team matches we have today, even with you here, State will continue to get some more ace matches lined up.
Hey, the curse is broken, man. We're going to get some ace matches. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. It's our first team, Planet, coming out. Been enjoying watching these guys play all throughout the preseason. Really feel like they're one of the item team specialists coming in here out of our 8 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really been able to kind of carry them towards some of these ace matches. In fact, Lens, you can see on the roster there, way on the right, the item ace. He's been doing work to bring Planet to these ace matches. Now, unfortunately, they have back-to-back ace matches, and Fly was not able to win either of those yet. We'll see if it comes down to the wire once again today.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a tough fight to force that ace match, though, here against Liiv SANDBOX, who not only is very capable in speed, but also in item mode. One of the few undefeated teams. I think in their chosen maps in item mode right now, they are 9-0.
Which
undefeated
is
so far. And yeah, it's just phenomenal stuff coming out of them. Important to note here that Seungha, he is back from his injury. He will be playing an item.
Yes.
His team identifying him as the item ace, and perhaps that will be his role for the duration of the preseason as he looks to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I was taking a look at the Korean side interview that Jimin did last time, and he was just talking about how you'll most likely see me kind of fill out the speed mode from here on out. So, you know, SANDBOX perhaps also taking this opportunity during the preseason to say, okay, well, if we have to make this roster changes, it's something that can stick permanently. And I'm sure they're kind of sorting all that out internally. But as you saw there, and as State mentioned, Seungha, he will be on stage. He will be playing for the item mode. And of course, we'll be kicking things off first with Planet on the speed mode.
Yeah, Planet on speed. Fly, the main player to watch here for Team Planet. The speed ace, he's been their go-to in ace matches, although it hasn't been working out for them so far. And it's kind of a David versus Goliath story right here for Planet, specifically in speed mode coming up against Liiv SANDBOX, as they say they're here to break their winning streak in the item match. But Liiv SANDBOX, you know, you think of these top teams, and usually it feels, at least to me, that they tend to specialize in speed and then those ace matches, but Liiv SANDBOX is so well-rounded that they are just dominating all facets of the game. The FREECS are the only team thus far that's been able to take them out.
Yeah, and what's been crazy to watch, you see Sungha there just staying warm while he's waiting for the item mode. But what really I think is impressive about Liiv SANDBOX is the fact that they are constantly bringing these kind of new item mode builds in their team strategy depending on who they're playing against, right? If the opponents have a very strong item ace, they'll usually target that player specifically, and they'll have these other ideas. So see if that comes to fruition today. Before Len's draw being kind of like Len's, legend or whatnot. But
Bone draw if you're a StarCraft 2
yeah, Bone draw.
fan.
That's where it's coming from, right?
Look at a win before he even puts the glasses on.
Yeah, the throne of Lens. We'll see if Lens can sit on that throne before the game continues or not. But SANDBOX, I mean, we saw what he was able to do against Tech last time. Curious to see if they can do it against Lens today.
Yeah, here we have the speed track list coming out for both of these teams. We'll be starting things on World Tour New York Rally before we move to Zigzag Timberland, one of my favorite maps. Glacier Extreme Stadium, rounding that out, and then Winding Slopes and Terracotta Twister if we continue in the series.
Yeah, and you can just see, once again, we often see this against some of the, I guess, higher tier teams, especially the pro teams. They seem to favor these quote-unquote tough tracks or hard tracks that are much more narrow, where as long as you get the lead early on, your middle or hybrid players can really start sweeping in the middle and just keep that lead to the very end, whereas Planet is trying to go for, somewhat wider tracks where they're not going to be bothered too much. They can focus on their own builds and their own courses, so they can try to even out the overall scoreboard rather than having to always get the better start.
Yeah, that's a great point to make there too, because on these maps like Terracotta Twister, it's so difficult to actually make solid passes. There's so many tricky turns that you can go through, and we're probably going to see the same thing. We're here on track number 2 as we have a lot of fans coming in here. Of course, on Wednesday, a lot of team matches coming in as fans continue to file into the stadium, but Schrober, we're getting ready to go into track number 1, Planet versus Liiv SANDBOX World Tour New York Rally.
And we're off, kicking off tonight's first match, World Tour New York Rally between Planet and Liiv SANDBOX. Planet, they will make sure that they're not going to get left far too behind, but again, their choice of track with somewhat wider sections where they're not going to be too concerned about all the kind of physical scuffles in the early parts.
Yeah, but watch out for these players from Liiv SANDBOX, so flexible at identifying what role they need to play in ensuring their team gets the position, gets the points they need to win the track right now. It's a tight race. Liiv SANDBOX, Insu, Hyunsu, and Jimin, though, starting to pull ahead of the pack a little bit.
Yeah, just a bit. Now, what's important is you mentioned that Liiv SANDBOX, they are fairly flexible. Now, the one player that doesn't have enough experience in the team speed modes would be Neil. And with him falling way behind in 8th place, I think you've got to hold on to at least 2-3-4, if not Insu. Maybe fighting for that first place to really feel comfortable for a round 1 win.
Yeah, Neil right now getting back into drafting range of Mari, so hopefully he should be able to support his teammates here at the top. But so far it's a very top-heavy lineup here for Liiv SANDBOX, holding 3 of the top 4 spots coming into these turns. See Jimin trying to do a little bit of body blocking there, but Acid Fly is able to pass him.
Yeah, just looking at the minimap as well, the top 3 are way far ahead. The later group, they're all packed enough, but Neil, he's trying.
SANDBOX to start things off tonight.
Yeah, fairly straightforward, right? I mean, we did have Scarlet trying to vie for, a spot in the top 3, kind of going back and forth along with Insu and Hyunsu, but, the Su duo, once again, they strike and they keep the 1-2 positions, and even Neil able to catch up. And this was what I was talking about earlier, is if Neil kind of falls behind, he's not going to be that dedicated sweeper. He's one of the players with the least experience in a team mode, while an excellent player, of course, in the solos. So, that's something that SANDBOX, I think they're working on. But hey, if you can get 1-2, it doesn't matter, right, where the rest of your teammates are.
Absolutely. Was impressive as well, though. Neil coming in from 8th place all the way up to 5th right there. Certainly was able to provide some space for his team leaders at the front of the pack right now, as we get a quick replay here of Acid.
This was where Neil gets pushed a little bit far out, as Acid Fly's also trying to drift around his opponents. Neil also trying to vie for that spot and actually bumps the wall there, eventually falls behind. But again, I guess the benefit of that flexibility is at that moment, Insu and Hyunsu can identify, okay, well then we have to fight for the top spots, and they're fully capable of doing so.
Yeah, they were able to pull away from Scarlet, and if you get those top 2 spots, you're going to win the track. Is getting ready to go into track number 2 right now. Liiv SANDBOX already up 1 map overall. Planet, can they start the comeback here in speed mode as we get ready to load into Forest Zigzag Timberland? Here we go on Zigzag Timberland. Last time, Planet was able to get a nice early lead, but Liiv SANDBOX was able to close the distance very quickly. This time, though, Insu and Neil leading the pack here for Liiv SANDBOX. Neil actually pulling all the way to first place.
Yeah, and that's the ideal scenario for Liiv SANDBOX. No matter how flexible you are, you have a player like Neil who, once he's in first place, he'll rarely let that go, just given the experience he has in making sure that he finds the most ideal builds and the courses on all of these tracks for KWANGDONG. I mean, he's one of the favorites in the solo mode as well, so keep an eye on there. Obviously, once you enter these hairpins towards the end, there's going to be a lot of shifting back and forth, and if it sticks this way towards the end on the second lap, it's going to come down to, do you vie for just going for the ideal out, in, and then out courses, or do you go for a little bit of a physical shot to try to, stop and block off some of your opponents?
A little bit more body blocking coming here from Planet, but ooh, a little bit of a slip up there, and Planet's going to fall behind there in the ranking because they really need their speed ace AcidFly to continue holding this pole position and allow their middle players to kind of come back and close the gap. And AcidFly, for now, he is holding on to that front, but 4 Liiv SANDBOX players right behind him.
Yeah, and they're going to have to get through, on the side of Planet, they have to get through Insu and Hyunsu, and the way that Insu and Hyunsu are playing together right now, just trying to make sure that one of them can still really fulfill that sweeping role. I don't think we see an opening here for the rest of Planet to get through. Even Insu just going for a bit of a straight boost there towards the corner to try to decrease the speed of the Planet members.
Yeah, and Liiv SANDBOX right now with Jimin coming into first place are going to be quite happy with this. If Neil and Insu are able to close the distance, they will be able to rack up the points that they need to be in position to take this track. But Planet, got to give them credit right here. They're fighting on Liiv SANDBOX's track, and they're doing a good job of it.
Yeah, Insu was a little bit greedier early on, and that's cost him a little bit of speed. Of course, Neil falling all the way behind was not part of the equation here for Liiv SANDBOX. So now the question is, Insu, can he catch up to the front of the pack? He will have an opportunity as we enter the hairpins, but it's going to require some risk.
Yeah, he does have some nitrous left in the tanks. We see Insu trying to take that inner line. He is able to pass Scarlet, so that goes a long way towards giving Liiv SANDBOX a more formidable position here as they do take the point lead. Jimin, though, he has to hold on to that first place, and AcidFly is right behind him. He's trying to make the pass, but no! He hits the wall. He falls behind, and that's going to be this track going to Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, Insu just cuts ahead as well. Even without the second place, it wasn't necessary, but they get another 1-2 finish. And SANDBOX just really proving to a point that, yes, they might have lost to the FREECS, but they are still one of the titans here in the KDL.
Yeah, and AcidFly, he went for that Hail Mary play there, coming into some of the final turns, and just wasn't able to make it happen. Cut it a little bit too close, a little bit too greedy, and that's going to be Liiv SANDBOX taking a 2-0 lead here in speed mode. And with how formidable this team has been, not only in speed, but also in item mode, Planet, they're up against the ropes right now.
Yeah, even in their kind of, prep in the team profile today, we saw Planet saying, well, we're here to really break your winning streak on the item mode. But even that, if you're losing this hard in speed mode, you got to start to wonder, are we going to be able to break their winning streak on item mode? Shouldn't we still try to get at least 1 or 2 tracks here to gain some momentum here in the speed mode, just to boost your morale a bit at the very least?
And in addition to morale, keep in mind that those track wins factor into potential tiebreakers that might happen should things not go Planet's way and they just sit on the precipice of qualifying for those top 4 spots. So there's something to play for here every single track, even if you're not going to win the set.
Something that they'll need to really keep in mind. Now, of course, we are waiting on the next track, which is Planet's Choice. So if there was ever a time for them to strike back, it's going to be here on track 3. We will be going into Glacier Extreme Stadium. And they're off. Now, something we've noticed in the first 2 tracks already is that towards the later part of the second lap, Liiv SANDBOX, they're really able to take advantage of their middle positions to shut off any and other members of Planet. So Planet, they're going to have to kind of make their choice here. Do we just get too far ahead early on, or do we try to get the middle of the pack scores?
Yeah, it's possible to go for that win, even if you're not going to have the first place spot, but you cannot let Liiv SANDBOX continue to run away with these top 2 positions. As we see the Sioux duo once again contesting those 2 spots, trying to body block and zone Acid Fly out. You see him trying to take these inner lines, but Liiv SANDBOX not giving any room, and Jimin also right behind him. Commanding position here coming into the first hairpin turns.
Yeah, and Acid Fly, the thing is at this point, the only thing he can focus on is getting to that first place, because even if your teammates are too far behind, you have to at least get him to first place to then try to maybe block them in the later laps. So he can't really think about where his teammates are right now. His only focus needs to get ahead of Insu, and he's trying, but Insu just making sure that he's also cutting. Oh! And he just comes in from the side.
Insu with some beautiful sweeping there, takes all momentum away from Acid Fly, and Acid Fly going to fall to 3rd place. He's fighting to try to get back into top 2 right now, but it's Liiv SANDBOX holding the top 3 positions, and Neil, I mean, he might be a runner, but you know, right now he's just supporting his teammates any way he can by swiping and sweeping all the way to the back of the pack, and I gotta say, Chober, this is looking really good for Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, I mean, it does, because right now you first of all have to get through Jimin, and even then Acid Fly, oh! So he's trying to get through, and Jimin actually blocks him off, kind of goes for a mini straight boost there to just completely shut him down. And Scarlet, there's nothing he can really do.
No, even Insu coming in here takes the wide first hairpin turn, but it doesn't matter with Hyunsu and Jimin holding the top 2 spots. Finish line only 500 meters away. Scarlet just in no man's land.
Oh, Insu!
Styling!
Oh my God!
Styling on Planet right now, as he knows he just needs to allow his teammates to get that room for that top 2 spot, and Liiv SANDBOX with 3 consecutive 1-2 finishes are going to sweep speed mode here against Team Planet.
Wow, salt in the wounds by Insu. I mean, completely unnecessary. Let's just say it like it is. I don't think
there was brutal.
Yeah, I don't think there was any world where his team wasn't getting the 1-2 finish there towards the end, but just goes for, you know, a complete swipe as well, knocking off 2 members of Planet into the depths of the glacier. And that's going to be a clean 3-0 here in speed mode.
Yeah, with some style points. It's a cherry on top of that that win right there. Is Liiv SANDBOX, they got to be feeling really good here. 3-0 win, just showing off their speed prowess. But keep in mind, this is a team in item mode, just hangs with the best of them. One of the only undefeated teams, 12-2 overall in tracks. I mean, you add up all of the wins that other teams have against them in item mode over the course of the entire preseason, it's not enough to win a single set against these guys. They've only lost 2 tracks, so in Planet swapping in their item ace, Lens here, Murray will be swapped out. Lens is gonna have to lead his team to glory here if they're gonna come back in this series and force an ace match.
Yeah, and this is something that I'm sure Lens, if he's been studying Liiv SANDBOX's games in the past, he knows that they will change their strategy depending on who they're playing against. So Lens has to be aware of that. Now Neil on camera will be sitting out here for the item mode, and Seungha will be coming back in. Now usually in the past, Jimin was the item ace at the beginning of the KDL, but since Seungha has gone through a bit of an injury, he's been sitting out. He's now coming back in for the item modes to help fill that gap, but otherwise Jimin kind of taking the hybrid role. So Liiv SANDBOX kind of experimenting with their own role changes, and here we go. Liiv SANDBOX, they get their first pick. World Tour London Night. This has kind of been one of their favorites, and something I did want to mention actually before this match started was Liiv SANDBOX won the coin flip, and they chose item map ban pick priority. So I think they really want to prove a point that they're not losing item mode at all here, even against Planet.
Yeah, that's a good catch, especially considering Liiv SANDBOX so far in this tournament, they are 9-0 in item mode on the tracks that they've selected. So getting 3 out of 5 picks right here, they got to be feeling good about that, as after London Night, we'll be heading to Cogwheel Crush, Magma Cavern, Polar Half Pipe, and then finishing things off with Mine Motherload if we do go to that deciding round 5.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, State, even if we do go there again, I mean, they haven't lost on their own track pick yet for Liiv SANDBOX. So Planet, surely you kind of, I mean, first of all, surely you expect London Night to be part of the lineup here if you've watched SANDBOX's games so far. See what they've changed. I mean, the general meta so far has obviously been to focus on those boosts and the magnets towards the end. But SANDBOX, they've been cooking up some different kind of twists. Again, if they want to target the opponent's item ace, really put a hamper on their run. We'll see if that comes to play as we go to track number 1 on World Tour London Night.
And item mode begins here. Planet desperately needing to put some track wins on the board to force an ace match here against Liiv SANDBOX, a team so far undefeated here in item mode in the KDL preseason.
Yeah, and we're looking at just some fun stats on the side of Planet there on screen. I mean, Lens, you can just see how aggressive he is, right? The most attacks per minute across the entire KDL. We'll see if that comes to fruition against SANDBOX today.
We'll see how that goes. I'm interested in seeing exactly how these teams decide to kind of line up and in what position their players start to rank coming into lap number 3, as we do have a 3-lapper here on London Night. As oftentimes the way that we see things go is Hyunsu here highlights is it's not really about the speed for a lot of these players early. It's about kind of setting yourself up to go for that Hail Mary wombo combo play at the final end of the final track, final lap.
Yeah.
As we've seen so often with, with magnets, with attacks coming in, with nitruses. Often it's that very final moment that's going to decide who wins each item mode map.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Lens right now, because of that, he's just kind of keeping 2 shields together. He's not cycling them as they go through their next row of items. So it seems like he might just want to keep that if he's able to stay in first, especially because they don't have too many angels on that side. Scarlet now has one. They didn't have one before on the side of Planet. Curious to see Lens, does he swap it out? He's just going to get another shield as he tries to cycle through these items.
Yep, Jimin picks up another nitrous as well, so probably will cycle that out as he comes in through another item stash. And so far right now, things looking pretty good for Planet. Coming in here into lap number 3 is they don't really have as many magnets as they would like, but
yeah, they
besides
do have
that,
boosts right at the first and second place. Now Scarlet, I'm curious, does he use it just to keep people behind, as Lens now has one more boost? He's got the angel going as well, but it's going to be missing, who tries to fight it, and he can't cut the corner close enough. Jimin will be able to slide into first without much opposition.
Yeah, Minshik not able to cut that corner and not having enough speed there to really contest. Jimin is Liiv SANDBOX just in a fantastic spot there to close it out. Of course, here in item mode, if this is your first time tuning into the KDL, it's not like speed mode where every position matters. In item mode, it's all about that first racer to finish the track that wins the map for their team. And it's going to be Liiv SANDBOX again, winning the first 4 tracks. 3 in speed mode are now up 1-0 here in item mode.
They could be going for the straight shutout, and we'll see if it goes all the way to the end. Jimin, of course, we saw it on the scoreboard, was hit by 0 attacks, so really just making sure that, first of all, he's not in a position to be hit, but then, keeping any shields and angels as well for the side. Now, Planet, they don't seem too concerned. That was, the track choice coming out from Liiv SANDBOX. We'll see if they can bring things back here on track 2.
Yeah, this is going to be where you're going to do it. If you are Planet, it's not going to be on Liiv SANDBOX's match choices. Is that a keycap he's showing off there?
Yeah, but we couldn't get it to focus on. You got to put your hand behind the keycap, right, to have the camera focus in on it. But, we actually had some moments of Hyunsu going for a bit of a spin turn there to shoot off Acid Fly, keep him at bay. I mean, again, those spin turns, they have a lot more value here in item mode and towards the end here.
Yeah, Minshik right here, only with a boost coming into the finish line. He knew he had to try and cut that corner as gritty as possible to have any chance of stopping Liiv SANDBOX from walking away with map number 1, but did not pan out. Liiv SANDBOX now 10-0 on their map choice so far in item mode. Just absolutely wild stuff coming out from them. Certainly seem to be the team to beat in item mode so far here in the KDL preseason, as we'll see if Planet can turn it around here on track number 2 as we head into Factory Cogwheel Crush.
And here we go, Planet on their track choice. They are currently 0-4 in the team match so far. They've got to be able to bring things back if they want to even try to get to the ace match here against Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, and you got to feel that it needs to start now for this team if they want to win it, because out of the remaining 3 tracks, 2 of those are Liiv SANDBOX's choice, and Liiv SANDBOX have been so hard to beat on their maps of preference so far in this tournament that, Planet, if they go down 0-2, I think the odds of them coming in for a reverse sweep are almost non-existent here.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to say it like it is, right? Especially because you're alternating track picks. So the next track will be SANDBOX's choice once again. They've always had these kind of curated strats in terms of position and item usage. So just waiting to make sure you get at that water bomb as well. I mean, Jimin, he used to be the dedicated item ace here for Liiv SANDBOX. So my eyes are still on him if he can really help carry the team to a clean sweep.
Yeah, Jimin and Seungha both, you know, doubling up here to provide some good utility here for Liiv SANDBOX on track number 1. Planet does have the top 4 positions, but as we've seen time and time again here in item mode, it really is about how you're setting up your team for that one final push heading into the end of the last lap.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, Minsik just trying to stay ahead right now with the double shields. He's going to start cycling through his items as some attacks come through, so we'll see what else he gets in the next line of items here. If he can pick one up, he's going to slow down to the right there, just going to be another boost.
I'm really liking this setup here for Liiv SANDBOX. They have 2 Angel Shields on Hyunsu. Right now, he's in the front. He'll be the one that will be attacked, should there be attacks, as he kind of stops and sweeps at Minsik a little bit there. But Insu's the guy you got to keep your eyes on right here. He's probably going to be the first player for Liiv SANDBOX to try and go for that finish line, as he has both a Magnet and a Nitrous here, as we're starting to come into some of the final turns. These racers getting ready to make that Hail Mary play.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Liiv SANDBOX, they're kind of losing that control. Hyunsu only has that Angel now. He has a banana, but not anything that he can really secure the first place with. Just going to try to cycle through those items as he tries to keep on in first. Jimin now with another Magnet. He's going to be the one who's going to try to cut through to that first place. Hyunsu, can he keep it?
Oh, it's actually Jimin with the Magnet off his teammate Hyunsu that's going to propel him into first place. As Liiv SANDBOX continuing the 1-2 theme from speed mode. They don't even need it here in item mode, but they got another 1-2 with Jimin and Hyunsu finishing Cogwheel Crush in first and second place, and Liiv SANDBOX so far 5-0, 3-0 in speed mode, 2-0 in item mode. Match point now for the entire set.
And wonderfully done, like you called it out, Stade, right at the end, the Magnet setup. That's what I was curious about as Jimin takes, you know, that top line, just trying to make sure he's lined up for the Magnet. And I think the question was, does he use the Magnet on his teammate or does he use it on the opponent just to secure the first place coming in from Hyunsu? But it's actually going to be Hyunsu who blocks for him and then helps propel him forward. So Jimin cuts in on first. And these are the type of things where you really have to be aware of it, you know, for the whole entire track. You have to plan ahead, see if we can get that. Oh, this is going to be the first part of the lap here.
Yeah, as we had Seungha go through that nice little shortcut right there, got a good speed boost, but Liiv SANDBOX, they just did such a fantastic job, and you see that Magnet right there popping in.
Oh, so he does use it on Scarlet as well. Yeah,
oh, did he?
Yeah, he used it on Scarlet, so that's what I was curious about. Seungha boosts forward just to try to get into first place, and in case he gets Magnet behind, Jimin actually uses his Magnet to slow his opponents down, but eventually it's actually going to be Jimin who actually slingshots forward. So either way, they even had kind of the insurance plan, right, to make sure they get into first place one way or the other.
And I gotta tell you, it's so crazy the way these item mode maps finish sometimes, and somehow Liiv SANDBOX, they always seem to come out on top. Will they be able to close it out here on Mine Magma Cavern with a clean 3-0? Liiv SANDBOX needs only to win this last track to do a clean sweep here against Planet. 3-0 in speed mode, 3-0 in item mode. That is what they are striving for right now as our racers get off to a good start right here. Planet holding the top positions. We'll see how that shakes up with Liiv SANDBOX coming out of the gates.
Yep, EMP is just going to be cycled out on both sides. Somehow holding onto his for the time being, but that's just because he had one extra slot. He's just going to cycle that out alongside the banana. Just trying to cut off some items as well. I mean, whatever you can stack up, because here's the thing, even with a 3-lapper, if you can make sure you're denying these item chances, they'll either have to slow down or they just won't have, you know, as much of a high chance of collecting the items they want.
That's a great point there as Liiv SANDBOX Hyunsu's water bomb not quite connecting, but more items getting picked up there. Minsik right now with a water balloon will slow down a little bit. Probably going to try and catch some of these Liiv SANDBOX players here on the opening part of the second lap as they dodge this barricade. Minsik waiting to see him throw that water balloon, man.
Yeah, he's just trying for that optimal, timing right here. There's not too many sections here on this track where it's going to be a guarantee, and even there it's just a little too far ahead. So, you know, at the end of the day, you're going into the third lap, you might as well start to cycle through some of the items you don't want. The barricade's doing work on the entrances of every part of the cavern here.
A lot of barricades coming down, and Now that we're getting through most of track number 2, or lap number 2, excuse me, I don't know why I keep speaking that today. As we're getting through most of lap number 2 and now starting lap number 3, the real thing you want to keep your eyes on is exactly what the team lineup is going to be, which players are in what positions, what items do they have on hand, because it's all about that synergy there in that final push. That's going to determine who wins. And, right now for Planet, I'm kind of liking their spot. They have 2 players with magnets pretty close to the front position, or at least they did for a moment there. And we're only 500 meters away.
Yeah, we'll see if Jimin, if he can cut in front. He's not going to have the items to do so. Sungha has to be the one to cut in front if it's going to be Liiv SANDBOX's win. And he's trying, but he gets magneted behind too, and a great water bomb to really clog up the entrance here towards the last section of the track. And Planet will finally get that elusive first track win in today's team match against SANDBOX.
And they desperately needed that one. And what a fantastic water bomb coming out to catch so many Liiv SANDBOX players there right before the end of the track. As Planet, they put their name on the board now, 2-1. You got to start thinking, maybe you just win 2 more tracks, go to that ace mode, and you might be walking away with a win here.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's happening in that ace match, right? It's a 1v1. It just comes down to who's got kind of the better build and maybe a little bit of better 1 versus 1 sweeping. So, I mean, we'll see. We would love to see some more ace matches, and Planet, I think also on their side, they would love to get a chance to finally win an ace match, right? They've gone to 2 back-to-back, and they've lost them back-to-back, especially if Acidfly is the one to come out again today. I think he'll want some redemption. We'll see if the rest of his teammates can help carry him there.
Getting a quick little recap here. This was not the Wombo combo or that super water balloon that we had there at the beginning. You might see that one right here, and yeah, Jimin, so good right there. I mean, he pops the magnet. He's trying to close the distance as rapidly as possible, and if that water balloon doesn't connect, maybe he is able to get into pole position and secure the win there for Liiv SANDBOX, but instead, clutch water balloon comes out. Planet, they stay alive.
Yeah, I mean, Planet, they are able to finally claw back in. We'll see if they can string it into 2 more to bring us to the ace match as we go into Glacier Polar Half-Pipe. Going into track 4 here in the item mode, Jimin just falling behind to make sure he secures those items. Now, this is a track where we won't see as many, cool water bomb moments like we saw in the previous track, but we'll see what else they have in store.
Yeah, kind of an interesting track right here. Often see these players on these long straightaways and these wide sweeping turns just kind of hug the edge to avoid any potential water balloons, and there usually aren't too many connections because of that. And one thing that I'm interested in seeing is how these teams try to leverage that shortcut coming into lap number 3, if they are able to, because that could be a difference maker here coming into the end of the track,
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing is that even if you're able to shoot far forward, you always have to be wary of the opponents having their magnets. So you want someone else in, second or third place on your team to make sure they can also deter their opponents from shooting too far forward. Lots of missiles coming out today here on Polar Half-Pipe, so everyone just kind of still sticking by each other here in the front of the pack. Insu just making sure he can slow down the members of Planet. Still gets hit by the UFO, though.
Yeah, UFO abducts him. Jimin right now holding on to an EMP. Had a little bit of a hiccup right there.
Yep, bit of a drop there. Missed the mark, but again, not to worry, especially in item mode. You gotta be able to catch up.
Double banana! Double banana! It's like a cartoon right there as Hyunsu gets swiped out. And coming into track number 2 right now, Planet, and yet another good position right here. Minshik also in first place here for Planet. Their lead racer holding onto a magnet. He's going to want to use that and hold on to that heading into the final parts of track lap number 3.
Yeah, I like what Lens is doing right now. He has the double boost. He's not going to cycle it, but he's been slowing down to just block off Liiv SANDBOX from getting any more items, try to make sure they don't build up their Wombo combo.
Yeah, Planet right now holding on to a lot of nitrous. Not too many magnets on the board for them right now as we see the shortcut coming in. I think actually that might have been Lens there for Planet, able to take that shortcut here on lap number 3. We'll see how that plays out as he is able to gain some distance right here. And Sungha, he doesn't have a magnet. He only has a nitrous. So if they're able to deny.
Jimin does try to catch up with that magnet of his, but Lens does have another boost. Can he stay in front? Double magnets coming from behind Jimin, but Jimin body blocks, and Hyunsu's able to cut from the left to get in. 3-1 victory in item mode. They are yet to be defeated in the item mode here for the team races.
Utter chaos there at the end of track number 4 as Liiv SANDBOX just by a hair with some great body blocking, some great magnet usage, able to bring the win home, and they're going to win this set 3-0 in speed mode, 3-1 in item mode. As, I mean, Liiv SANDBOX, they're right up there with the FREECS as the teams to beat right now in the KDL Preseason. They've been playing out of their mind so far, especially here in item mode.
Yeah, again, incredible. With a lineup, a roster like this, you know, you do expect them to be a force to be reckoned with in the speed mode, but then to also just have the team prep, not just individual players shining, but overall team strategy and communication and the calling coming out in item mode. This is what you want to see in the team league, right, for KartRider Drift League, and SANDBOX putting on a masterclass once again.
Yeah, and Seunghwa's got to be feeling good coming out for the item mode here, representing his team, showing up, delivering it. We still don't know what that keycap is.
Oh, wait, there it is.
Oh, it's a Liiv SANDBOX. That's a nice keycap, actually.
Yeah, there you go. It is nice. Yeah, fits perfectly into waiting patiently until the cameraman is able to focus in on it.
I guarantee that cameraman's like, just give me like one more second.
Yeah.
We got to get this into focus. Hold on. As Liiv SANDBOX is going to come through with a really clean win right there. I mean, they did bleed a little bit there in item mode. Planet taking a game off of them in item, that's no small feat. Liiv SANDBOX, I believe that's their only, maybe their third track loss in item mode overall here in the entire KDL preseason. So
it is their third loss overall, but it was their pick. So they're finally not completely undefeated on their own track picks, but of course in overall item mode, still yet to be defeated. And they make sure that Planet does not get another shot at the ace match.
That was a fun one to start things out here on, man. I was looking forward to seeing Planet versus Liiv SANDBOX. You know, even coming out of week number 1, week number 2, Planet was one of those teams that I was keeping an eye on, particularly for their item performance. I mean, you kind of saw Liiv SANDBOX poking fun at how good Planet is in their item mode, calling Lens Lenjoie.
Yeah.
Like the bone draw of item mode, right?
I mean, just giving him the respect that he is, you know, an item ace, you know, that deserves to be in that spot to have that title. But SANDBOX still says, yeah, but as a team, we're able to really counter that against Planet and Lens. And they prove it, right? If you can prove it on the track, what more can you say?
It really feels like teamwork was kind of the whole story here for Liiv SANDBOX today. You saw that in speed mode with some fantastic sweeping, some really comical sweeping at times too. Just kind of styling on their opponents there at Planet. And once again, in item mode, I mean, the body blocking came through, the magnet usage came through. It felt like everybody in Liiv SANDBOX in item mode, almost every single track, not just in this series, but throughout the entire KDL preseason, they're all on the same page.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing we can take away from there is just not just the fact that, oh, like they have this Hail Mary combo lined up, but depending on, can we stack it up or not, and depending on what the small micro adjustments are, they change their positions purposely so that they can help their teammates get into first place, you know, and not just say, hey, I'm in first, just protect for me. It's not like that. You know, they'll make sure that they understand kind of the nuances of what items interact with each other and their opponents as well. So just great to see. I mean, we saw it again towards the end as well, right? Jimin using the magnet early to try to catch up, and then it's going to be his teammate Hyunsu to try to help really edge in towards the end. I actually think even on the last track, Jimin ends up coming in first place anyway. But the way they set things up with the barricades and all that, where they're able to communicate to each other, here we go, I'm dropping it now. That's just what it takes to be able to win this cleanly in item mode.
Yeah, and it's also very cool of Jimin to be stepping up right here.
Yes.
For his team, because, you know, Seunghwa with his injury, he wasn't able to play in 1 week. He actually did miss one match.
Yeah.
And Jimin, formerly the item ace for Liiv SANDBOX, coming in and delivering in speed mode. It just goes to show that, you know, here at the KDL, all of these players, they're truly capable of playing basically any role.
Yeah.
I mean, we call them sweepers, we call them runners and speed aces and item aces, but these guys, they're so good. It really feels like they can do it all, especially on a team like Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, the depth of the roster there, I think, shines a lot. And that's where we'll, I think, start to see the division of the top-tier teams versus maybe those right below, right? Is can you be that flexible in both the speed mode and item mode, and depending on what position you're in? Or are you, you know, you might be great, but you can only do that one thing, right? Maybe you can only really be that speed ace, the runner who's way out in front, and if you don't have any collisions, you're going to be able to keep the best time. That's great. But again, in team mode, it doesn't always go your way, so you're going to want that flexibility. SANDBOX, they seem to have built a roster, and they're able to maintain that roster that shines on that aspect.
Yeah, just very well-rounded. I mean, we do see some teams like Sensation ROX, for example, that they're very capable of taking tracks and taking sets in speed mode, but then you go to item mode, neither of these teams have even won a set in item mode thus far. They're going to be playing, you know, today in match number 3, so one of them will be walking away with an item mode win, but one will remain, you know, winless.
That's true,
coming out of this, and that's got to burn because, you know, item mode, I mean, we kind of talk about like how random and chaotic it is, but there's a reason that Liiv Sandbox is winning pretty much every single time.
Yeah,
it's teamwork, it's communication, it's understanding the dynamics of positioning your racers and basically playing what cards you're dealt.
Yeah, I like that you bring that up, right? It's because yes, there is a element of randomness in terms of like percentage of what items you can get and when you might get them. But if a team like Sandbox is able to be undefeated, right, after this many tracks, then there's something to it. There is a way to calculate yourselves to get around it. There are ways to interact with the way item mode works to make sure that you can win. And there is a element of strategy to it. And again, I think obviously a big part of it is that because it's team mode, right? It's not a free-for-all item mode, because then it would be a little bit more random and who's going for what. But in team mode, there are ways to kind of set each other up to have these neat micro interactions amongst your arsenal as well. So cool to see. I'm curious to see how much more Sandbox is able to develop that meta here in the KDL.
Yeah, I mean, with how well they've been playing in item mode so far, I'm wondering if any team can actually beat them in item mode here in the preseason. It hasn't happened yet. It might not happen until we advance to the playoffs.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take some time, I think, as well, right? Because if Sandbox is already so far ahead that they can build up these counter strats against certain teams in item mode specifically, I mean, you have to study them so much to be able to really get on top of that and get ahead of them in terms of being a step ahead in item mode. And maybe the answer for most teams for now is just, okay, well, we got to win speed mode against Sandbox, because otherwise we're not even getting to the ace match.
Yeah, the problem is, though, that even if you win speed mode, and then Sandbox takes item mode, you go to that ace match. Liiv Sandbox has so many players that can actually come out in that ace match and
anyone
challenge
could come out.
anyone.
Yeah,
I mean, Neil especially. I mean, the global community would love to see Neil come out in another ace and just deliver a stunning performance for his team. It's just a team that's so difficult to beat. I mean, for me right now, if I were to make a power rankings here in the KDL preseason, it's the FREECS and it's Liiv Sandbox, particularly because of their item mode. And guys, we're going to go to a short break. When we get back, more Kartrider Drift League action. Don't go anywhere.
그렇다면 스피드가 끝까지 이거 1위 만들어냈어요. 하지만 띵이 이거 쫓아가는데요.
갑자기 띵 1위 하면 또 달라집니다.
유일한 시드권자로서의 자존심이 있겠죠. 이제는 뒤쪽에서 오는 거 블로킹 살벌하게 할 겁니다. 그리고 지민도 은근슬쩍 합류하려고 해요.
지금 현재까지는 상위권에 올라와 있습니다. 에시드 플라이도 오늘 전반적으로 좋아요.
그리고 누적 1위와 2위의 포인트 격차가 3포인트이기 때문에 만약에 이런 식으로 띵이 1등하고 스피드가 2위 하게 되면 동점 나옵니다. 이거 너무 재밌어졌는데요?
자, 어떻게 돼요? 일단 스피드와 띵,
안정적으로
에시드 플라이.
안정적으로 가려고 했고요. 스피드는 과감했거든요. 그러다 보니 거리 차이 생겼어요.
이 거리 차이면 그래도 드랩 한번 봐주면서 맨 마지막에 역전 한번 보여줍니다.
띵이 승부르기 하고 그 다음에 뺏어와요.
이거 띵이 붙었어요. 띵이 붙었습니다. 띵이 붙었어요.
띵 끝까지.
띵
붙어서 같아요.
같아요.
띵.
약간 애매한데요. 그런데 여기서
여기서
쳐나요.
띵이에요.
띵.
브로킹 있습니다.
와, 어마어마한 블로킹과 어마어마한 드래프트였네요.
아, 정말 명경기였습니다. 온라인에서 진짜 고평가받은 이 두 명이 마지막까지 치열한 승부를 보여줘요.
보시는 것처럼 일단 이 현수, 인수, 이 쌍수가 앞에 있어도 불편한데 뒤에 있어도 힘들거든요.
그렇습니다. 사실상 이 타이밍에 드랩을 통해서 원투 사이로 들어갔어야 될 타이밍이 꼬였죠. 그러면 여기서도 라인이 좁기 때문에 역전이 쉽지는 않고요.
아, 언제 직구가도 이상하지 않고
오!
과감하게 흔들었어요.
노랭이 그러네.
이번 거는 루닝이 좀 무리할 수밖에 없는 포지션이었었고 그러다 보니까 그래도 3, 4, 5등이 올라왔다 이렇게 긍정적으로 봐야 될 것 같아요.
그러니까요.
그나마 다행인 건 방금 전에 점프대 구간에서 스탑을 당할 만한 위치는 아니었다는 거. 그게 다행이고 3, 4위가 이제 드래프트 관리 잘해야 됩니다. 타이밍 관리 잘해야 돼요.
혹은 루닝이 하위권에 빠져있을 때 과연 리브는 어떤 경기력을 보여줄 것인가 이게 관건이 됐네요 이번 tur에.
띵이 올라와 있습니다. 띵이 이제 로드가 붙어있는 현재 상황인데 3, 4, 5를 유지하고 있습니다만 순위 하나가 더 필요합니다.
라인 열어준다고 너무 넓게 가다 보면 어느샌가 인수 와서 또 휘졌거든요.
그렇죠. 인수는 직구가 본인의 라인이거든요.
그럼요.
자, 그러다 보니까 약간 흔들렸어요.
아, 일단은 순위를 좀 더 만들어내야 되는 띵인데 현재까지 현수가 약간 서 있고 승가는 1위를 먹고 있어요. 계속.
네, 한번 열어줬다가 그다음 드래블을 이용해서 역전할 생각이죠.
이러면 로드가
자, 한순위 싸움 됐습니다.
이러면 이 부금만큼 요동칠 수 있어요.
그런데 여기서 감속 조절 잘하면 인수가 앞쪽 와서 스탑 시작할 거예요.
자, 혹은 띵도
오죠?
지금 앞쪽에서 1등 싸움 좀 되고 있고요.
띵.
자, 이거 누치 지금 지속적으로 승아가 라인 블로킹을 해주거든요. 라인.
로드
오!
맞고 현수.
자, 현수 백업이 안 됐어요.
쌍수가
일사,
붙어있는데
원투까지 한번 봐야 되는데요. 원투까지.
1위 들어왔어요. 쌍수가 이어서.
아, 1싸움 끝까지 유지하네요.
경만 구간 빠져나오는 상황에서 현수와 인수의 가속 붙이기 그리고 타이밍 조절 스탑까지 경기 조율 자체가 워낙 좋았고요. 승하는 버텨냈고요.
네, 어떤 포지션에 있어도 각각의 역할을 너무 잘해줍니다. 누가 러너도 이상하지 않고 누가 스위퍼도 이상하지 않고. 네.
히어로는 부스터를 소모하면서 올 것 같으니까 호준이 앞쪽에서 넓게 돌면서 여유있게 부스터를 모으죠. 그러니까 히어로도 함부로 그냥 안 들어가는 거고요.
호준 선수도 예전부터 가장 장점으로 여겼던 게 단순한 기획력보다는 상대 상황 보고 부스터 상황 맞춰가면서 그 멀티력이거든요.
그렇죠.
하지만 히어로 만만치 않습니다.
앞으로 가는 것도 불편할 수 있습니다. 이번에 호준이 건들면서 위로.
이것도 눈치 어느 정도 챘어요.
이거 예행 연습 한번 했죠. 첫 번째 랩에서 내가 어떻게
와.
플레이를 해야 될지.
자, 코너에서의 눈치 싸움 끝에 다시 한번 거의 비슷하게 동반.
라인이 없는 곳에서 양 선수의 눈치 싸움 진짜 치열합니다.
지금 호준이 어떻게 막을 건지 시뮬레이션을 한번 했거든요. 그럼 히어로는 뒤쪽에서 쫓아가다가 드래프트로 벗겨내야 돼요.
자, 위로 툭 치면서 올라갑니다. 호준의 이 블로킹을 한번 뚫어내는 히어로인데 히어로도 한번 보였습니다. 자신의 공격성을.
이 고가의 질주 사실 라인 넓게 가져가면 넓게 가져갈 수 있는데
겁나 좁아
어떻게
보이는데요?
해서든 삐지고 들어가려고 그것도 안 내주려고 양 선수 눈치 싸움 대단합니다.
자, 목으로 한번 들어갔습니다. 히어로. 그리고 호준이 그 옆으로 한번 파고 들었어요.
거의 2.7 정도 모아가면서 부스터상으로 이득이 있는 상태에서
좀 더
역전이었죠.
이거
여기,
이거 히어로가
여기인데.
무리해야 되는데요. 지금 부스터가 약간 좀 애매합니다.
없어요.
모아야 돼요. 모아야 돼요.
자, 이러면 타이트해질 수밖에 없는 상황. 그러면 그렇죠. 과감하게 가야 돼요. 이거는 히어로자 과감하게 막아야
호준이 있어요.
돼요.
호준이 있는데
밀어붙여야 되는데.
호준 위에 올라왔죠.
자, 타임이 더 있습니다.
히어로
이거 히어로
있어요.
있어요.
타이밍 받았을 때 눌러줘야죠. 오른쪽 라인이 열리지 않도록
400m
막아야 돼. 과연
200m. 호준이 들어옵니다.
모든 상황에 대한 플랜 B, 플랜 C가 다 있었던 호준입니다.
아직은 아니다. 왜 쟤네는 더 호준?
더 배워서 와라 이런 거 같고요. 긴장 많이 했을 겁니다. 호준 선수도 사실 개인전도 좀 아쉬웠었고
네.
팀전도 오늘 패배하고 연속으로 패배였었거든요. 그런데 중요한 상황에서 역시나 해내네요 호준은. 이게 거리 차이가 좀 많이 나다 보니까 최대 탄력 감속 관리하면서 가려고 하다가 실수가 나와버리거든요. 근데 오히려 누굴 밀어줬네요.
네. 이거 노린 건가요? 네.
막을 사람이 없어져서 지금 쫓아가는 과정이었는데 약간씩 꼬이고는 있어요.
하지만 그 사이에 히어로가 어쨌든 붙었고 뒤에 녹도 있어요.
3, 4등끼리 드랩 받으면서 빨리 가자 이 생각이었던 것 같은데요.
예.
드랩 조절 한번 해줬죠. 어차피 착지하고 나서부터는 가속 붙여서 앞쪽으로 치고 나가면서 부스터를 하나 모을 수 있습니다.
초반순위 괜찮았는데 지금 이상해졌죠. 3, 4, 5, 6이 지금 아우라가 돼버렸습니다.
자, 일단 히어로가 위쪽으로 올라오는데 7, 8위가 떨어져 있으면 이거 하나만 뺏겨도 그냥 끝납니다.
히어로 입장에서는 2위를 일단 속도만으로 벗겨내고 녹의 합류를 기다렸어야 되는데 태민의 반응이 너무 좋았던 거예요.
자, 지금 라인이 굉장히 어려운 상황이었었는데 히어로 눈치 보고 여기서 스탑할까봐 지금 한 번쯤 빼줬거든요.
히어로가 안쪽으로 한번 노려봤어요. 근데 완전히 붙어있는 원투고.
자, 이거 최대 투들이 탄력 붙이면서 역전하겠다.
야, 일단은 깼죠 원투를.
조금만 드리프트 밀렸으면 벽에 들이받을 수도 있는 상황이었는데 집중력
자,
좋네요.
지금까지 스트라이커도 속상했을 거 이번에 풀어내야 되는데 2대1로 이거 어떻게 어떻게든 막아야죠.
자, 다 왔어요.
지금 순위만으로도 원투만 깨면 가능하긴 합니다만 원투 게임이 돼서 멈추는 선수가 아니죠.
7팔도 고정 안 되기 때문에 혹시 몰라요.
뒤에 받아요.
끝까지 쭉 밀었어요.
300m 뒤에
선수는
보고요.
뚫었어요.
그리고 2위
이상호
235
와. 히어로가 결국에는 원투를 깨놓은 이후에 2-3으로 팀원들 보내놓고 8위가 아니라 7위로 들어왔네요.
야, 판단 뭐죠? 진짜 본인이 몸을 날려서 이거 원투만 깨면 돼. 그리고 뒤에서 침착하게 따라붙는 2, 3등까지 아우라. 그렇죠. 지금 이 정도 상황이면은 사실 뭐 ST 플라이 입장에서 나성 선수가 금방 따라올 텐데 그때 어떻게 해야지? 약간 이런 생각을 머릿속으로 빨리빨리 해주는 게 중요합니다.
에시드 플라이 침착하게 위쪽을 달려나가고 있습니다. 일단 이름은 이 사막맵의 딱인 에시드 플라이거든요.
그렇습니다. 그리고 쫑이 쫓아왔을 때 두 개의 부스터를 모두 다 유지를 한 상태에서 싸울 수 있어야 돼요.
네.
에시드 플라이.
자, 드림이 좀 세게 들어갔었어요. 쫑 선수가. 근데 그걸 본인도 알고 있다 보니까 근데 디커팅 좀 많이 해야 되거든요. 이러면 감속이 좀 많이 돼요.
이거 어때요? 약간 부족한데.
이게 아무래도 우퉁우퉁한 구간이다 보니까 디커팅 무리해서 안 하고 그냥 부스터를 안 쓰는 판단했네요.
그래서 그거를 빌드를 회복하기 위해서 고유지책으로 그렇게 간 건데 지금 붙는 순간에 오히려 쫑이 부스터 상황이 불리하단 말이에요.
에시드 플라이가 하나 더 앞서고 있습니다만 살짝 넘어가거든요.
자, 이거 이렇게 되면 마지막 타임 보겠다는 건데 ST 플라이 깔끔하게만 가면 됩니다.
에시드 플라이가.
자, 거리 있거든요. 근데 마지막 감찬
와, 드랩이 안 나온 거리에서 순간적으로 드랩 나오는 거리를 확 좁혔어요.
이걸 또 쫑이 먹습니다.
역시 해결 쫑 결정.
대단한 쫑이네요.
지는 경기였거든요. 쫑이 지는 경기였는데 그걸 어떻게든 뒤집어냈습니다. 말도 안 돼요.
이러면 진짜 일부러 가는 거죠. 에이스 결정전.
어떻게 이겼는지 다 다시 뜯어봐야 될 정도로
네.
해결 2연승이에요. 해결 2연승.
Welcome back, everyone, to the KDL. We are live here on Wednesday night from Seoul, South Korea. And we're continuing, of course, with it being a Wednesday and us being still in the regular season part of the preseason. It's going to be more team matches. First up, it's going to be ReBoot coming up on stage.
Yeah, ReBoot against the KWANGDONG FREECS will be the second match of the night as ReBoot. Gotta think that they have a lot on their plate right now coming up against this team. The FREECS so far undefeated here in the KDL preseason as our players here for ReBoot enter the stage. And you gotta think that their win condition against the speed freaks that are the KWANGDONG FREECS is gonna be them trying to win at least one set, ideally an item set, and forcing an ace match because man, it's going to be tough to beat these guys.
Yeah.
And the KWANGDONG FREECS, they are an all-star roster, top to bottom, only 4 players, but unbelievably good. World cool Spear and Sungbin, just proving to be a class above the rest here at the KDL.
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously heads held high as one of the few pro teams here in the KDL, but then also taking down Liiv SANDBOX and able to say currently we are #1. From the side of KWANGDONG FREECS, they would love to be able to keep that going for the entire regular season and be undefeated 7-0.
I always mention this when the FREECS come on stage and, we show the graphic describing their roles, as they're the only team that says, we have 1 speed ace and 3 runners, but it really does feel like that at times, you know? Like, any single one of these guys could be a speed ace on almost any other team in the world. And on top of that, they're also capable of running. They're so fast in speed mode that it's crazy. I mean, this is a team that has a 50% round win rate overall in item mode, and they're still on top of the world. But let's hold that thought for the FREECS. Let's talk about ReBoot.
Taking a look at ReBoot, really just trying to hype up one of their own players, Looning, of course, coming out for those ace matches as well, and just general speed mode performance here from Looning. We'll see if he can keep that up. Please send out Cool. I think they want the rematch, I believe, here. I think there is a potential rematch here from Looning. I think Looning has beaten Cool back in last year, or 2 years ago, no, last year in the regular Kart Rider League, and they want a rematch to go against them.
That would be awesome to see. Looning, a rising star here in the KDL. Our cameras and our eyes focus here on the Freaks. They are the team to beat here in the preseason. Still undefeated so far. They want to continue that streak and go for a perfect series. So far, undisputed despite consecutive losses in item match. The secret is having 4 solid ace match racers out of 4 members. And yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, that's what I was talking about, man, is your win condition coming in against the Freaks is to try to beat them in item mode, because you're probably not going to beat them in speed mode. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah.
And then try to have a miraculous win in ace. But this is a team with 4 aces. So
I mean, they're not afraid of anything, right? They're just not afraid of anything, right? In their previous 2 ace matches, we had World come out for one of them, and then it was going to be Sungbin coming out as well. So, you know, if we go to another ace match, maybe they send out Cool this time. It's 3 different members, 3 different races for 3 different aces. We'll see if we can even get there. As we take a look at the speed track list, we're going to start on Desert Construction Chaos, picked up on the side of Kwangdong Freaks, and then we had some bands, and then we go towards World Tour Boostwood for track 2.
Yep, Terracotta Twister will be round 3, another Freaks pick. Village Bayside Bridge Run will be Reboot's pick, and then round 5, if we go there, we'll finish on Boom Hill Tunnel. But I gotta say, man, with how strong the Freaks have been looking, I would be surprised if we made it to a round 5. I would love to see it. I would love the underdog story to happen. But the Freaks are just out of their mind right now.
Yeah, again, you keep mentioning it, and I think it's, you know, it deserves to be mentioned, is just purely in terms of speed mode understanding, both in terms of the team races and then 1v1 ace matches, you know, even maybe for some of the players in the solo matches. It's just that they are incredible, and they have such good control and recovery, even if, you know, they're not able to instantly get the first place. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
KDL equals KDF. That might be the story here, man.
All right.
That might be it.
We'll reboot, saying that that's just the definition, is to restart. Obviously, that's kind of our slogan here for the KDL as well. So see if Reboot can live up to that name here in Kart Rider Drift League as we go to track 1 in Desert Construction Chaos. And we're off. Now, something we were talking about during the break state was, you know, Kwangdong Freaks, one of the teams that's been bringing out the 6-2-6-0 builds. Earlier today, we saw SANDBOX kind of copying it off of them as well.
Yeah, a little bit of a shakeup here. Usually, you know, you go on YouTube, you check out some guides, a lot of community members in the Kart Rider Drift scene. You ask them, what's the best build in speed mode, whether it be in item speed, whether it be in solo speed, or item speed, squad speed.
Yeah, squad speed.
And they're going to say, you know, 6-0-6-2 is the bread and butter, but for the Freaks and also for Liiv SANDBOX these days, prioritizing, you know, speed and acceleration is, ooh, Sungbin with a little bit of a hiccup right there, getting caught.
Yeah, just right at the edge of the corner there, and actually brings down his own teammate Spear as well. So right now, all eyes on Cool and World. But as we were mentioning, and we've been seeing this in some of the solo matches as well, it's about if in the case that there are going to be collisions no matter what, because there's 8 people in the race, you know, maybe you prioritize that acceleration just a bit to make sure you don't lose too much speed, that the recovery is a little bit better. We'll see if that comes into play today against Reboot.
Yeah, so far it's been a winning formula. Kwangdong Freaks 12-3 overall in tracks right now in speed mode, but that might change here in a hurry. Is, you know, that early hiccup there with Sungbin and Spear has Reboot in a pretty commanding position. Now, if the Freaks are able to secure something like 2, 3, 4, then maybe they have a chance, but right now, Looning and Ding holding on to the top 2 spots, but Cool actually with the inner line right there, able to pass Ding. Ding trying to swipe him back, but Cool will be able to maintain. And right now, he's trying to gun for that top 1 spot.
Oh, he actually cuts right in front as well. So now it's just really down between him and Looning. If Cool is able to stay in first place, it will be Kwangdong Freaks who can really close it out. World and Spear holding onto that middle ground.
Looning taking some really greedy angles right here, and it's paying off as he's able to pass Cool. Cool now falling into 2nd place, and the Freaks, they don't have the speed behind them right now. They don't have that middle of the pack roster. So Cool, he has to hold on to this top 1 spot, but no, he clips the side.
He really wanted to hold on to it and try to get that straightaway, but actually it's going to be a battle with Looning, and Ding is able to take advantage of that and cut forward. It's still not over just yet. We do have yet another team boost on both Ding and Cool. Cool trying to get the inner side, and he's able to cut in, and they get 21 points. Kwangdong Freaks.
Somehow Cool is able to take the inner line right there and push Ding out of the way. And the Freaks, they have just such a deep understanding of not only, you know, what lines to take, but also the physics in this game engine. Cool just knows that if he takes this line with a little bit of sweeping right there, he will come in first place, able to deliver track number 1 a win. But man, Reboot made a show of that one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be Ding really surely able to close it out there as both of them had a team boost left in the tank, but Cool actually making sure that he swings a bit wider first. And again, this is what we talk about when we say builds, right? It is about understanding where can I cut this time, where can I really gain an advantage? And he actually takes the outer line earlier so that he can actually get a much more straightaway boost towards the end, maintain his speed for a bit longer, and Cool able to secure that track win. For his team. Of course, I mean, it also comes down to his teammates holding on to the positions they had, but if Cool hadn't gotten first place, it was all down the drain.
Yeah, Cool, when the pressure's high, he stays cool, delivering that first place finish right there in track number 1, and that was not a great start there for the Freaks. You go back to the first lap, and they had a bit of a hiccup with Sunghan, with Spear. It was not really going their way, but they were able to come back, and if you can come back from that position at the beginning of lap number 1 and still win the track, that's got to be a scary position here for ReBoot.
Yeah, I mean, you surely thought you had that kind of in the bag. All you had to do was keep, one of the 2 players in the top 3 in the first place. They even had it so that Ding was positioned to be able to overtake and secure that first place for them. But at the end of the day, Cool actually with just a bit better recovery. Now, this is the early part.
Yeah, Sungbin just gets caught right there on that corner.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of momentum lost there for the Freaks, but some fantastic racing here. I mean, Cool in a 1v2 situation where you could get potentially sweeped, and then the recovery from here. I mean, this comes back into 6-2-6-0. Being able to accelerate out of that corner, out of that collision, might have been the difference between him finishing in first and finishing in second.
Honestly, yeah, I think you're right. Is that we're going to start to see maybe some of these go into play. A little report card here for KWANGDONG FREECS. I don't think anyone can deny that, right? I mean, they are top dogs right now here for the KDL. We'll see if they can keep it up as we go into track number 2. It's World Tour Boostwood.
All right, the Freaks looking to try to add on to this lead right now. They would love to go to match point after only 2 tracks right here. ReBoot, we'll see if they're able to maintain their ground, but the Freaks, they've been so good. I mean, even out of the gate right now, ReBoot holding these top 3 spots. I'm not feeling very confident about their chances. The Freaks have been so good at closing the gap as we see Cool yet again, just moving up in the ranks. And ReBoot, for what it's worth, Kosu, Load, and Ding, they have a tremendous start here, but just wait, Trober. I'm guaranteeing you over the course of lap number 1, we're going to have some shakeups.
Oh, for sure. And especially on a track that has so many wide areas like this, you're able to get in all sorts of cuts or swift cuts just to really make sure that you gain an advantage in your boost. So we'll see if that comes into play as well for the KWANGDONG FREECS. Now, one thing to note is Kosu, the only one running a different build on the side of ReBoot outside of the 6062. He's got that 6161. So making sure that, he can still gain a little bit of better recovery should there be any collisions coming in towards the end.
Yep, KWANGDONG FREECS closing the distance a little bit right now with Sungbin and Cool going to try and contest these top 2 spots. Of course, positions 1 and position 2, if they are able to hold that, will be a winning condition here for ReBoot. And Sungbin right now out of drafting range has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, now they are trying to just pile on the team boost here on the side of KWANGDONG FREECS just so that Sungbin can catch up. He needs to at least break in to second place to have any sort of shot, right? If we have the 1-2 position on the side of ReBoot, and he's going to be able to get it. So now it comes down to his teammates. Can we have Spear and World get ahead in the middle of the pack?
All right, Load saving the situation right there for ReBoot a little bit as we get closer and closer to the finish line. Freeks, Sungbin, if he's able to hold this position right now, the Freaks might have a win, up 20 to 19 points.
Oh!
And actually, Cool out of nowhere yet again, able to take pole position, and the Freaks go from winning by a hair to winning 24 to 15 in track number 2. As I was not prepared for that, man. I was watching Load and Sungbin thinking that, okay, these are the 2 racers that are potentially going to decide this thing.
Well, that's the crazy part is Sungbin, whatever the comms were, at some point I would love to hear it because Sungbin, he's trying to fight for that first place spot, and then he makes the choice of going for that straight boost towards the corner. Hopefully we get that replay, and he's able to actually slow down Load enough to where, Cool is able to actually just get a smooth 0 collision drift around the corner right at the end with his own boost. And these are the types of plays, right? Sometimes you have to be a little bit sacrificial so your team can make sure you get that victory. Because if it was only Sungbin trying to get into first place, it could have been still iffy towards the middle of the pack. But by Cool getting first place and Sungbin still getting third, it secures a guaranteed win.
Yeah, up until then, it was a 1-point differential between those two teams. And I mean, this is kind of just the trend that we're seeing at the very top level of this game is teamwork comes above all as we get a replay of exactly what you're talking about right there.
Yeah, so Sungbin goes for the straight boost. Load wants to deny it and try to cut ahead of him. It forces Load to bump into the wall, whereas Cool, no matter what happens, he was going to be able to avoid both players and get into first place. Just an absolute, I mean, showcase here on the side of KWANGDONG FREECS and how to play as a team in speed mode.
The situational awareness here for the Freaks, particularly in speed mode, is just unbelievable. These guys know how to handle any situation you throw their way. Looking to close this series out against ReBoot with a clean 3-0 sweep here in speed mode. Let's go to World Tour Terracotta Twister.
And we're off. Now, once again, I mean, KWANGDONG FREECS, the way they're able to manage their team boosts just to catch up, really try to vie for the top 2 spots. And this is what's interesting, is that other teams will talk about, okay, they're sweeping, right, just to make sure that they can keep, like, kind of 4 or 5 position and have a bit of insurance here in the top spots. No, KWANGDONG FREECS, their agenda is get into first place, have someone else get second or third.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to play for a win if you have that pole position. You have so many more opportunities, so many different ways that your lineup can stack coming in to that final lap to actually be able to deliver and convert that into a win as we enter here this tricky area here in Terracotta Twister. We'll see if there's any hang-ups. We had a couple of those the first few weeks here in the KDL preseason, but so far it feels like players are getting the hang of it.
Oh yeah, Spear was doing his best to try to block off Looning, but Looning just takes a bit of a wider swing on one of those to avoid him. Eventually, still a little bit of aggression from Spear will ruin the absolute dominance that ReBoot had in the beginning, and now this is where we need to keep an eye on the boosters, right? KWANGDONG FREECS, if they can continue to stay ahead in team boost, Spear and Sungbin will catch up to Load and Kosu in no time.
Yeah, also being able to draft off of each other is going to give them a little bit more momentum here coming into these next turns, as you just see the distance between the top 2 racers here for ReBoot and then the 3-pack between Spear, Sungbin, and World continuing to close.
Yeah, and this is something else we should maybe keep an eye on as we continue the league here, is that even though you have the 6-2, 6-0 builds here coming up for KWANGDONG FREECS, if you're able to always manage your team boost better, then you're going to be able to keep up in speed and your nitro. So see if that comes into play. Spear now, can he overtake the top 2 spots?
This is one of the best spots to try and do it right here. Can go take some dangerous lines coming into these turns. Spear goes for it. Oh, man, that was very scary there for Load, and that's going to allow Spear actually to take pole position right now coming into that turn.
Oh, and he blocks off Load as well. Load falls down. Kosu is able to keep first place, but it's not enough in points. Sting has to be able to fight for the top 3.
I don't know if they're going to do it, man. I think the Freaks are going to deliver another win. And that's a 3-0 here in speed mode. The Freaks just so good in every situation. They don't get pole position here, but they're able to deliver with a 2-4-5-6. A rare but concerted team effort to win that track.
Yeah, what a, I mean, just, I can't think of a better word than masterclass, quite frankly, from KWANGDONG FREECS. I keep just going back to that word. And if we look
apt.
at
it's the perfect word.
Yeah, we look at the last parts there. I mean, Spear, for one thing, him putting on pressure has already made Load and Kosu lose a bit of speed towards that, tomb section of the track. But then towards the end, Spear takes advantage of that, where he's able to gain better acceleration, actually cuts in front of Load, where Load gets bounced off the track. That means they only have to kind of fight against Kosu. Kosu, he can hang on to first place, but it's already not enough because Load has been pretty much guaranteed to drop into 8th place.
Freaks with this victory now. 5-0 in speed squad sets, 15-3 in speed squad tracks. Just absolutely out of this world. But, item mode, it's a different story. They don't have quite the cohesion that Liiv SANDBOX has, although they are still a force to be reckoned with. This is going to be a ReBoot's opportunity to potentially try and come back, stem the tide, win a couple of tracks here, get the momentum going, and then try and get that rematch in the ace match to deliver you a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, item mode is something that ReBoot, they do have a bit of confidence in, right? They've only lost their item set against Liiv SANDBOX, otherwise they've won all 3 of the other ones as well. So they're kind of banking on this. Meanwhile, I like that you called out Freaks. We can call them the monsters, the titans of KDL all we want, but if they cannot improve their item mode, they'll always have to live on the edge here in the KDL.
All right, here we have a look at the item track list. Coming out in track number 1 will be a repeat with London Knight, followed by Magma Cavern, Factory Cogwheel Crush. And then should we go to a round 4 and a round 5, we will finish things out with Gangnam Streets and Istanbul Sunset Plaza, 2 of the prettier maps in this pool.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that. I mean, those are beautiful, especially the Istanbul Sunset Plaza. I mean, the sunset does help a lot in that aspect. But the World Tours, of course, it's always nice to kind of just see the similarities to the actual locations as well. There is a fan just cheering for the Korean casters as well. You know, the Korean casters for KDL, they've been casting Kart Rider together as a trio for over like 10 years. So impressive to see them continuing. But here we go. It is item mode between these 2 teams. Our first track is going to be World Tour London Knight.
Can ReBoot begin the comeback here in item mode, or will the Freaks continue their dominance so far here in this set and close things out? It all starts here, Trobrev. ReBoot, they want to win. They're going to have to come up big.
Yeah, and you know, you do have the ban pick priority here for item mode, since we saw Guangdong Freaks taking speed priority, so ReBoot. They're starting on a track of their choice. We'll see if they can make it turn into a W. Pure just making sure that, you know, no one gets too far ahead of his teammates, that they're all able to still stay grouped up towards the end here.
Nice little water wisp there, and then Cool also gets abducted by a UFO, so he'll be slowed down. Kosu hit with a Thunderbolt right there. Is a lot of aggressive attacks coming in here. Not too many Angel Shields or shields in general for these players to deflect these attacks. As you know, it's still a very dense pack here. No one really pulling away.
We are just seeing.
Doesn't stop.
Yeah, all the attacks go through right now. The UFOs have hit everyone so far. No EMPs coming through just yet now. But as we enter the second out of 3 laps, we are seeing players start to hold on to some of the more quote-unquote valuable items that they'll want towards the end, namely the Magnets, Boosts, and Angels. So any player with those, you can see already on the left side of your screen, they're holding on to those to see, all right, who's taking which position towards the 3rd lap, and you know, who should we really boost forward on our team to make use of their items.
Yeah, we might occasionally have those players start to cycle through, you know, the Nitrous just to try and move up in position a little bit there. Is actually an Angel Shield does get popped.
Yeah, so Ding actually does a spin turn to try to use his missile to cycle through it as he was in first place. He turns around, forces the Angel to come out of the side of Guangdong Freaks.
It's a smart play right there. I mean, looking at this right now, oftentimes in item mode, we'll have just a couple of players leading the pack, and it's going to be between them and their item usage coming into the final section of the track that decides the winner. But we have 6 racers right now in close distance from each other.
Oh, the Angels coming in, the Wisp isn't going to matter. It's between Kosu and Sungbin. Actually, Spear trying to fight for the first place as well. The Magnet draws down Pure, but it's going to be Sungbin who's able to cut ahead off of the advantage that his teammates Magnets gave him.
I actually can't believe that Sungbin was able to come through with the win there. I saw Kosu holding on to the final moment right there with the Magnet. I was just waiting for that to come through and deliver the win, but Sungbin just by a thread able to close the distance right there. I want to see actually the timetable, because I feel like it was like maybe a 10th of a second.
Had to have been. I mean, they kind of all lined up horizontally here.
It was a 100th of a second. 100th of a second separating first and second as a true photo finish right there.
Wow.
Sungbin barely edging out Kosu. I mean, Kosu, maybe if you pull the trigger on that Magnet just a little bit earlier, he would have been able to deliver a win, but instead the Freaks going up 1-0 here in item mode.
Yeah, and there we do have, I believe, the coach, from Africa, or the Guangdong Freaks, rather. So
yeah, if you're a coach, that's a stressful one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially, I think what he's hoping for is, you know, this is our weakness, right, on the side of the team mode for Guangdong Freaks. So if you can really prove that we're growing in this aspect, then you can really become that top team here in the KDL. Well, we'll see. Was that just luck, or have they truly improved as we go to track number 2 on Mine Magma Cavern?
Oh. I think we might actually be having an issue here with the lobby.
All right, we're just going to wait for that to boot up. That's all right. We'll just take a look at some of the players again, give them a little bit more of a chance to show off their little signs. I love that the players,
they bring
their
so
fans,
much stuff.
Yeah, they bring their own stuff as well from the fans, and the players preparing it for themselves as well.
That's really great. It kind of reminds me of some of the earlier esports days with other games, you know, people coming out and doing ceremonies and stuff like that. It's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of Banana, for example. He's one of those guys that's really high energy, a lot of hype, loves to kind of bring and let his own personality kind of shine through there. we have a little bit of replay here of the previous track. And this was such a close finish. You know, we had so many racers that were in position to actually come through. You see Kosu right there. He pops the magnet. You got to think that maybe just a couple frames earlier, if that comes through, he might be able to deliver the win. But,
yeah,
you know, it's easy to look back in hindsight at a situation like that because there's so many things that are going on in item mode, especially when you have such a clustered group coming into the finish line, that it's difficult for us, and we can see the full inventory of every single player all of the time to really understand what's going on. It's even harder to play call in the moment.
Yes, oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, looking at the replay, the way it played out, I think Kosa's idea was he wanted to get to a better angle to use that magnet.
Yeah.
But that is what made the difference between getting just enough speed. But if he had used it earlier, you know, would he have sung too far out? Maybe. I mean, that's something that the team will have to go back and VOD review closely.
A little bit shy here.
Some of the players pretending that they're shy. I don't buy any of it. I don't buy any of it.
We see him signing autographs after these things, man.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I mean, for anyone unfamiliar, you know, if you're only really learning about the Kart Rider universe through Kart Rider Drift, I mean, obviously this game has been so popular in Korea for so long, and it's the longest running, you know, esports league in terms of just really keeping, you know, one game title all through, right? Not counting sequels or other spin-offs. So the original Kart Rider League I'm talking about. So a lot of these players, they still have such a loyal fan base that now with the start of KDL, and of course, you know, after the pandemic, people are able to come into the stadium. They're just thrilled to be able to meet the players after every match, even if it's only the preseason.
It's a beautiful game. The long storied history spanning almost 2 decades, that original Kart Rider. I remember back when I was a StarCraft 2 pro gamer, me and my friends there at StarTim, we would watch Kart Rider League every night at dinner, you know, in between our practice sessions. And guys, now we're going to go to Magma Cavern. Let's see if KWANGDONG FREECS can add on to this league. Of course, it's when I want to go into a little bit of story time. The game is suddenly ready. It's suddenly ready. We're able to get into it as our racers are off once again. But it's really hard. I mean, you can't understate kind of the cultural impact in gaming that Kart Rider has had over the span of 2 decades here in Korean esports, where, you know, fans of other games from, you know, even a decade ago, like in practice houses, we would go upstairs, we would have dinner together, we'd sit around the couch, we would watch Kart Rider League, and it was such a blast back then, the same way that it is right now. I mean, it's such a treat to be here casting this. A new era here for Kart Rider esports in the KDL.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add a little bit more of perspective to that is, you know, for a lot of other organizations in Korea, like for instance, like town halls or city halls, if they want to hold any sort of esports tournament, I'll often hear about or see them running Kart Rider, just because it's a game that they're all so familiar with, that everyone's played with, and everyone can enjoy, right? Even when you're watching it, it's so easy to pick up to understand what's going on. Obviously, the final moments of item mode can get a little crazy, but, you know, it's just something that everyone can really get into and enjoy. So glad to see it kind of going into a new era here with the KDL.
Yeah, it's been so much fun watching and learning and playing this new game. You know, the latest iteration here of Kart Rider. It's only been out for a couple of months, and you know, I'm hoping we continue to get more global fans come in and learn about this great game, because the skill that these players play with, it's absolutely incredible. I'm telling you, I try to play like this at home, and it's just nigh impossible.
Yeah, it takes a lot of grinding. It takes a lot of grinding, and then obviously if you want to really get into the mix of things, if you want to try to build up a team and go into both item mode and speed mode, there's much more to consider, but we are now in the 3rd lap of item mode. We had a little bit of a anecdotal section for the first 2 laps, but we're actually nearing towards the end, and Kosu, he only has a shield and a boost. It's not going to be enough to really secure that first place, and that's all you need here in item mode. He has to rely on his teammates to be able to find the arsenal to stop Spear.
And only 500 meters away, so there isn't a lot of room right now for Fury. He's going to have to use this utility as best as possible. Gets the rocket, that's not what he wants. We'll see if the nitrous and the boost going to be able to propel him, but no, just needed something a little bit better there with a roll of the dice, and instead it's going to be KWANGDONG FREECS Sungbin coming away with the win, and the FREECS now up 2-0 here in item mode. I bet their coach is going to be really happy with this.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be, right? You've always been the shaky team in item mode where you've had to rely on your aces. Granted, you do have 4 of them for those ace matches, but I mean, if you're able to now start to shut out here in the item modes, that'd be something crazy. And towards the end, I mean, you called it, State, right? We didn't see the arsenal to really stop anybody in a surefire way. And even though Sungbin was getting magneted right towards the end, he used his boost the latest, so he's able to still shoot forward and maintain his speed and come into first place.
Yeah, the only player there for ReBoot close to the finish line that had the best possible setup, you know, the combo that we talk about again and again, the nitrous and the magnet. he was maybe 50, 75 meters behind the leading racer there for the FREECS, and you're not able to close that distance unless things absolutely go perfectly your way. And the FREECS, they're not the kind of team that's going to give anybody that kind of breathing room, as we'll see if the FREECS are able to close out item mode here with a clean sweep as we get ready to go to track number 3, Factory Cogwheel Crush.
And we're off. Kwangdong FREECS looking for that 6-0 victory to try to close things out here against ReBoot. Can they get the clean 3-0 sweep in both sets of speed and item mode? We'll find out as we continue here on track 3.
It would be really promising for the FREECS if they were able to do it, because this is a team that, until this point, and I mean, including this point, continuing today, just seem untouchable in speed mode. But, you know, item mode has been their Achilles heel. And item mode here in the preseason, that's half the entire league, man.
Yes.
You have a best of 5 in speed, a best of 5 in item. You have to be able to perform in both of those to be able to do well. And, you know, it's a testament to their ability to win the ace matches that the FREECS still have an undefeated record despite being kind of middling so far in item mode. But, you know, showing up here today against ReBoot, they're playing really well.
Yeah, Sungbin earlier just having some nice sweeping as well. And oh, Looning just trying to block off World, but World just says thank you very much. Goes right on through.
You know, look at a UFO. Look at a UFO as a reward for that one.
Yeah, just going to bring him back a little bit and say you're not going anywhere. Of course, I mean, it's nigh impossible to really stay out so far ahead here in item mode. You know, teams will always have something ready to bring everyone really back together. Now, Pure is shooting forward. He does have a UFO and a shield, so any actual physical... Oh, he's going to try to save onto that shield. Doesn't use it against the water bomb. He's just going to get caught onto it. Don't know if it was maybe just at the edge that he thought he could get through, but at the end of the day, World is going to be able to catch back up.
Yeah, World right now holding onto a shield and a magnet as we are here on lap number 2, trying to keep tabs on these inventories, see how they line out, and World is able to dodge the water balloon. The rocket will hit him, though, as we get closer and closer to the finish line. Sungbin right now for the FREECS in a fantastic position with a nitrous and a magnet. Looking to line up here for ReBoot. I don't see many magnets, man.
No, and that's what worries me, right, is that Sungbin can drop back behind and still be able to catch back forward no matter who's in first place. The side of ReBoot, you don't have anyone who can secure that. And right now, Kosui's just doing what he can with the boost. He has to hope that he can really just drive home the finish line, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
No, I don't think they're getting the items that they need as World is propelling forward, and the FREECS, it looks like actually Cool gonna finish in first place with a clean 6-0 sweep. The FREECS showing that they have improved in item mode over the course of the KDL preseason, winning a clean 3-0 here. And we are not going to have an ace match.
Wow. I mean, a very quick, 6-0, 2-0 in sets here from the Kwangdong FREECS. And towards the end, I mean, ReBoot, they didn't have a single member with Magnus to be able to contest for that first place spot, or at least try to bring back, players like World or Cool so that, Pure or Ding could get ahead. Just wasn't going to be enough. And Kwangdong FREECS, they're starting to show a bit of a better understanding, a bit of better teamwork, I would say, even. Here in the item mode, we even saw Sungbin earlier just trying to sweep while he had the boost on, the nitro on, things like that, where you make do with what you have in the item mode to bring home this victory. And you can see the coach very satisfied with how the players played, or the races played on stage today.
Absolutely. And it's kind of been the theory for a long time, or at least the meta here in Kart Rider, dating back to the Kart Rider League, where you would want to run these 5-man rosters to have an item specialist that can come in and do the play calling and can help carry the load in item mode. But, the FREECS, they only have 4 players. They might be 4 aces, but they don't have the item specialist. And up until this point, it's kind of come back to bite them. But today, just showing a phenomenal performance, 3-0 in speed, 3-0 in item. And I'm telling you, man, if the FREECS can start to deliver in item mode at the level of some of these other teams, the KDL's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Kwangdong FREECS would just kind of have their pick of any track, any mode that they can just win no matter what. But a 6-0, that's going to feel good no matter your opponent. Meanwhile, on the side of ReBoot, with this loss, that puts them at a 2-3 record overall. So they're going to have to continue to try to fight back to get into the top 4. They've kind of lost that handle. Meanwhile, the teams that they're kind of somewhat competing with, one of them being ROX, is playing next. If ROX can beat Sensation, then ROX gets ahead in terms of the overall rankings.
Yeah, and I think it's getting to the point where we're going to have to start looking a little bit more at the win-loss ratio of these teams and tracks to kind of get a good idea of exactly where they're going to stand, because you know, a loss like this in a reboot, you might just look at this at face value and be like, okay, well, you lost to the Freaks, that's not a big deal, but that's 6-0 in map score.
Yeah.
If it gets to a situation where we have a tiebreaker, which is a possibility with only 8 teams coming down into 4 for the playoffs, that could be trouble here for ReBoot. So I guarantee they're going to be watching this upcoming match between Sensation and ROX, and they're going to be hoping that Sensation has a win there because they do not want ROX to close the distance or pad a lead.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, Sensation gets a win, right? They can try to vie for that, you know, right around the 4th place finish, you know, right between 4th and 5th. So we'll see. But, you know, we'll obviously keep the leaderboards updated at the end of each broadcast as well. So we'll keep better tabs on that. But I think the big story here is FREECS, their item mode, right? The fact that they're able to look clean. Yes, it was, you know, you kind of had to hope for it towards the end, but the fact of the matter is they still had the calculated arsenals, right? They were saving the items they want instead of just trying to use it and win, you know, in overall top speed, because you just can't do that in item mode.
Yeah, some of the item draws, it did feel like it kind of went their way, especially there on track 3. ReBoot just never really got the combo that they wanted to have coming to the end of that track, but, you know, and track number 1, track number 2, the Freaks, they just look solid from top to bottom. I mean, it seems like they're kind of getting the item teamwork down a little bit. This is a team of 4 speed aces, effectively, that if they can start to thrive in item mode, which, I mean, I'm sure their coach is trying his best to do. That's why we saw him looking so stressed there after map number 1, just praying that they get a couple more map wins there in item mode and show that the work is paying off. Well, it is. And if they can get to the level of a team like Liiv SANDBOX in item mode, I mean, I don't know if anyone in KDL can really stand a chance.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it kind of becomes the top 2 battle between SANDBOX and FREECS, right?
Yeah.
On who's able to just get a bit ahead in terms of overall meta development and practicing, especially at that point, it probably goes back to speed mode and your builds in terms of, you know, which course you're taking, which line you're taking, and things like that. But, I mean, it's cool to see that we already have this potential rivalry and, you know, maybe a bit of a back and forth in terms of who really is the top of KDL. Because when we look at individual players, both the KWANGDONG FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX, they have stacked rosters, right?
Yeah.
But if it's going to be FREECS who shoot ahead before the regular, you know, part of KDL starts, as we are just in the preseason for the time being, that's going to, you know, light a fire under Liiv SANDBOX. They have something to work for.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of fans at home will be like, okay, well, yeah, but the FREECS did beat Liiv SANDBOX earlier in the preseason, but that was when Seungha got injured. He wasn't able to play. They didn't have their full strength, and, you know, since then, they've made adjustments. Seungha is now the item aced. Jimin, he's playing both in speed mode and in item mode. So it doesn't, at least for me, really answer the question of what happens if these 2 teams go head-to-head. And I think, you know, in the playoffs, that's a question that we absolutely are going to get an answer to, because
very
these
good
2
chance.
teams, it feels like they are destined to be the preseason champions, at least one of them. It would take some stunning improvement from some of these other teams to kind of close the gap that I feel like is just continuing to grow here between the skill of the FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX and some of the other even pro teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have it correct, especially in terms of just preseason 1, right? The preseasons are fairly short. You know, we're just going through these round robins, and that's the important thing about these preseasons is it's just to get us all warmed up overall for the KDL and also the teams to be able to really, you know, go through how is this going to work, get used to the fact of running through these tournaments once again, now in Kartrider Drift. So it's okay for the first couple preseasons to have, you know, 1 or 2 favorites that are, you know, kind of obvious to the eye. But then the question is, okay, how fast do the rest of the teams start to catch up to the likes of KWANGDONG FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX?
Yeah, I mean, it might be the kind of thing where teams have to look at their rosters and be like, okay, we need to strengthen this one position. Maybe we just need to find the sweeper that's going to support us in the middle of the pack to carry us to speed victories. Or maybe we need to find an item ace because we've just been running a 4-man roster. I could see a lot of teams potentially doing that.
Yeah.
And,
there are adjustments to be made.
Yeah.
And you have time for that, right? Because right now we're just on preseason 1. There's going to be another preseason, and then the regular season of KDL will kick off. The first official season will kick off later in the later part of the year. So teams do still have a bit more time. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's going to be yet another team match. Don't go anywhere.
Muchas gracias la prisión.
아니.
와 콧소리 에바야.
난가?
당신이야 당신.
알았어. 숨 안 쉴게.
딱 좋아.
야 이길 때까지 숨 쉬지 마. 오늘은 진짜 이기자. 3대1 어때?
오케이 콜.
네. 아까 형이 밑에서 말했지만 우리 잃을 거 없어 얘들아. 네. 형이 스피드 저도 최소 애결 보낼 테니까 일단 편하게 해봐.
와, 저 말을 여기서 듣네. 진짜 뭔가 딱 믿음이 가.
셋!
세션.
뭐 계단타기야?
다시 한 번 더.
셋!
세션. 하나 둘 셋. 파이팅.
거의 다 붙어 있어서 위협 구간 들어갔을 때 조그만 실수만으로도 두 순위 세 순위 바뀝니다.
스피드 지금 라인 교차해주는 거 굉장히 좋았어요.
다원이 안 맞다.
끝까지?
빨려?
아직 몰라.
다원이 대 상대야. 잡았어. 상대야. 나이스. 이거 제 뒤에 볼게요. 뒤에 꼬이게 해놨어. 야 하나.
퍼센트 근데 날 꼬였어요. 날 꼬였어요.
또 한 번 연속 헤어핀 구간에
커버 찾았어.
최단 18.
일단만 해.
뒤에 작업이다.
78.
막았어.
뒤에 작업.
나이스.
자 남은 시간 이렇게 와 투퍼 센테이션.
와,
병수.
앞에서 뛰어.
네 마지막에 좀 기어갔어. 너무.
그렇지.
네.
내가 스탑이었어 그래서.
잘했다 형 진짜. 땡겨.
까비.
괜찮아.
잘 끌어놨네.
아이템 따자.
까비.
형이 애결 보내줘야겠네. 애결 할 준비하고 있어.
태경 올려드릴까요?
올려줘.
빨리 빼줘봐.
아니야 갈게. 뒤에 봐봐.
그래 가봐.
되나?
하나 떨어지고 나이스.
해보자.
천사 불러봐. 우리 셋이 해야 돼.
나와.
천사 한번 쓸게요 형.
자.
나 이제.
와줄 수 있나? 일단 쓰고.
내가 해볼게. 꼴찌물 안 보여.
용준이 먼저 해. 나 어떻게? 1파 대기 부르면 알.
나 먼저.
1등 들었거든. 영훈이 형 빨리 말. 짤게 그냥. 째면 돼. 야 쨘다. 1미 했어.
부산해줘야 돼.
번개까지. 뛰었어.
그냥 가.
뛰었어.
나이스. 와.
번개 값이다.
이거 진짜 나 최대한 늦게 한 건데 안 돼.
와 근데 번개 진짜 아깝다.
내가
걱정
천사
말았어.
없어서 그래 우리가.
너 자신 있어? 괜찮아? 나? 내가 해? 뭐 하고 싶네. 나? 살짝 오늘 좀 그래.
혹시 나갈래? 내가 나가?
나갈 사람 없으면
눈치 게임?
병수 어때 컨디션?
근데 만약에
아니야 너 좋으면 너가 나가도 돼. 아니면 너가 별로면 내가 나가고.
그냥 반반이에요.
야 이긴 사람이 나갈 거야? 질 사람이 나갈 거야?
지는 사람이 나가야죠.
진 사람? 가위바위보?
누가 졌어? 형이 졌어요?
첫 번째 랩에서 내가 어떻게 플레이해야 될지.
자 코너에서 눈치 싸움 끝에 다시 한번 거의 비슷하게 독박.
밀어붙여야 되는데.
호두 위 올라왔죠.
자, 타임이 더 있습니다.
슛 있어요.
타이밍 받았을 때 눌러줘야죠. 오른쪽 라인이 열리지 않도록
사방을
잡아야
들어.
되지 막아야 돼. 빨리
하던 대로만 하겠습니다. 성배 1등 고정하고 더도 말고 덜도 말고. 그래. 우리 이거 승률 100%임.
오케이. 하던 대로 하면 되겠다.
파이팅!
이번에 광동이 상대 괜찮은데
위험하죠?
놔두지 않습니다. 퍼센트.
야, 과감했죠. 이거 초반 진입 구간에 왼쪽으로
나이스. 계속 가. 내가 뒤에 봐줄게 이제. 다 펼쳐. 1등 작업하면 일단 할 때.
돌아왔어. 나이스.
막아.
야 1등만 잡고 있어봐.
네 지금 뚫렸어 나.
실수만 안 할게 성빈아.
천천히.
유지 못해. 꼴찌 고정. 나이스. 앞에
네,
봐라. 나이스. 맞아. 이거 앞테리아 조심.
짝으로 이렇게 편안하게 들어옵니다.
나이스.
야 초반 순위가 근데 좀 아쉬웠다 이거. 사이드 좀 사이드.
네.
오케이 같이 맞았다.
나쁘지 않다.
오케이.
1템 내가 쏠게. 오케이. 궁템 많이 나온다.
가드 미사일
먼저 쏴.
먼저 쏠게.
뛰었어. 허센테 띄울게.
1등 물.
띄우고.
못 잡았다.
일단 한번 더 적게. 제가 바리 깔게.
오빠 있어. 오빠.
한 명이 빨고 붙자 일단. 한번 붙을게 나. 오케이.
나 장애. 나 파리.
일단 안 가. 일단 가자. 사이 탈까?
타봐. 지금 칠게.
얘 가사에 탄다.
오케이.
나 한번 쓰고 간다 그냥. 해지 마음 챙겨줘.
혼자 해야 돼, 혼자 해야 돼.
네네.
물만 봐줘, 물만 봐줘. 물만 봐줘.
나 투보거든?
오케이.
이동 한번 쏠게 나.
이거 뗀다. 상처.
1등 빨아놨어 내가.
빨리 안 친다.
빨리 맞춰봐. 쏘리.
호선빈 갑자기 소빈.
나 잡으라서 이겼어.
금열의 칼날은 너무 무딘데. 김열의 칼날이 혹시 그거 약간 드립이구나. 방심하지 말고 끝까지 하자. 어떤 상황이 와도 끝까지 해 얘들아.
시작한다.
파이팅.
Muchas gracias la presión. Ellos para nosotros. 템 챙기자 뒤에는
다리
이제.
깔게 피해봐.
다리 깔래. 다리 살아 있고. 동문아 쉴드 버리고 템 챙기자.
그냥 사이드 가냐?
그냥 쳐 그냥 잘.
물 버릴게.
우준이도 템 챙겨와야 돼. 1등 안 갈라 그런다.
이거 물 버릴 테니까 사이드 가능?
사이드 가는. 나 우주 와.
지금 사이드.
나
먹었다.
나 우주 맞고. 오른쪽 파. 이거 계속 챙겨줘. 이거 나한테 맞춰주라 얘들아.
우주 하나 주고 갈게.
나 우주 오고. 템 챙겨봐 얘들아. 매겼어.
질러 까나 그냥?
해지 챙길까? 해지 바꿔. 갈템 뭐 해지 바꾸래. 우주 내가 우주 쏠 거야. 자 대기. 거리. 그냥 해. 나 벌써 떼줄까? 떼봐. 엄청. 한번 더야.
내가 빨게. 그냥 나 들려 형. 형 이겨야 돼.
발칠까? 그냥 가.
렌즈가 그러다 들어갑니다. 렌즈.
야 우리 좀 붙여 있어 줄래?
진짜 상관없어.
야 진짜 부담감 갖지 마. 너 아이템 잘했으니까 얘기한 거야.
쪽은 상대 라인을 좀 보면서 아예 다운시키고 도망갈 수 있으면 도망가는 이런 판단을 많이 하는 선수이기 때문에 ST 플라이도 너무 무리해서는 안 돼요.
싸울 수 있어야 돼요.
네.
에시드 플라이.
자, 드림이 좀 세게 들어갔었어요. 똥 선수가. 근데 그걸 본인도 알고 있다 보니까 근데 뉴커팅 좀 많이 해야 되거든요. 이러면
지금 붙는 순간에 오히려 쫑이 부스터 상황이 불리하단 말이에요.
에시드 플라이가 하나 더 앞서고 있습니다만 살짝
싸게요.
넘어가거든요.
자, 이거 이렇게 되면 마지막 타임 보겠다는 건데 ST 플라이 깔끔하게만 가면 됩니다.
에시드 플라이가
자, 거리 있거든요. 근데 마지막 감자
하고 들어서 끝을 내야 될 나라에 밀었죠.
현수가 들어옵니다. 135.
뭐네 그냥 애초에 헬로. 나 카메라 또 나온다. 카메라 또 나온다 이거. 아니 카메라 왜 이렇게 또 가깝게.
Welcome back, everyone. We are getting ready for the last match of the night. My name is William Cho, joined by State. We are bringing you the team matches of the KDL. In the last match today, the first team up on stage will be none other than Sensation.
Sensation, led by the Emperor himself, the Kart Rider League legend, Hojin.
Yeah, Hojin, I mean, of course, he retired a couple years ago, and, you know, he's been coaching, just streaming, and now he's back as a player with some old teammates, with some old legends as well, and then on top of that, bringing in Speed, the youngest here to join the KDL alongside Sensation, and Speed's been, you know, gaining a lot of attention as well, on top of his performance in the solo matches.
Yeah, just one of the best runners in the league is, you know, Sensation coming in here to the KDL preseason. There's a lot of hype around this team, you know, the return of the Emperor, what could they do to perform, but as it is right now, they're kind of in the same situation as this team right here, ROX, where, you know, this match, it almost feels like it's do or die for these teams. You know, they're right on the precipice of qualifying for the playoffs. I mean, Sensation, if they lose this, they are completely out. For ROX, I mean, they're kind of safe now that ReBoot lost, but they're still only in 4th. If they lose here to Sensation, it could be trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in your later matches as well. And here's the thing is that both teams showing a weakness in item mode, but that hurts a bit more for ROX, which is running a 5-man roster, right? You have an item ace, and if you're still losing all of your item modes, it's going to be a tough road forward. All their wins actually so far, their 3 wins that has come off of the ace matches that Jung was able to bring home. So that's not something you want to always have to rely on to eke out these Ws.
Yeah, well, if they're going to win in item mode, it's going to be against Sensation, as mean as it feels to say that. Shocking 3 consecutive losses. What is the last resort to seize the chance for a postseason slot? Because, of course, if they do not win this, their postseason hopes here in the preseason 1 of KDL are entirely dashed. So this is do or die here for Sensation. ROX, they have a little bit more breathing room, but still, the pressure is on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going for the current ROX versus previous ROX. Percent used to play on the ROX squad in Kartrider League. So just trying to fight against his old team here. Of course, Jung kind of joining ROX for KDL from the other universes of Kartrider over at KRPL. Now that's the other fun part for me in this matchup is, Hojun, he's the undeniable emperor of Kartrider League, but Jung is the undeniable master of the KRPL, which is the Kartrider Rush Plus League. So him coming in, and if he can prove, I'm here to take over on keyboard as well, right, on PC as well, that'd be something for him to really stack onto his reputation.
Yeah, and it's been unbelievable, the performance out of Jung so far, not only in squad speed, but also in ace matches, winning 3 out of 3.
That's
when
crazy.
ROX needed him the most. Jung stepped up, and I cannot understate how impressive it is that this player came from the mobile platform of previous Kartrider, now into keyboard and mouse in Kartrider Drift League. It's just, oh, that's brutal. I actually just saw that.
Sensation, they are, you know what? Currently on the leaderboard, they are, second from the bottom, so they're in the race for bottom. But hey, if they win today, they still keep their hopes alive. So ROX, they might have to eat their words on that one.
That was brutal. I almost lost my train of thought with that one. Actually, Jung, he's been incredible, man.
Yes.
Well, we'll talk more about that as we get into this. First, Choba, tell us about the speed track list.
Yeah, we're going through. Sensation took the speed priority, so they'll take first pick here. They'll get 3 track picks here in speed mode, kicking things off with their by far favorite, Glacier Extreme Stadium. They've always picked that track whenever they have the choice. Then ROX on Village Boom Hill Tunnel. Then we go through Construction Chaos, Zigzag Timberland, and Rickety Rails. Yeah,
should be a fun track set here. I feel like this is probably going to be the closest match of the day. I mean, especially coming into this. I'm not, obviously we just had a 6-0 and a 6-1, so the odds are pretty good that it's going to be closer than the previous matches. But, I feel like Sensation, up to now, they've been underperforming a little bit of what their true skill level is. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of a mental block for them in item mode right now because they really have not been succeeding in item mode so far. 5-15 overall in round win rates for that, 0-5 in sets. It hasn't been going their way, but I think they can do better. And ROX at the same time, this isn't one of those titans of the league. If Sensation's going to start their comeback and keep their playoff hopes alive, it's going to be right here with a win against ROX. Let's see if they can start that path forward as we go to track 1, Glacier Extreme Stadium.
And we're off on track 1 between Sensation and ROX. We saw on the loading screen there, ROX's Jung currently holding the team speed record here on Glacier Extreme Stadium. See if he can make a new record today against Sensation.
Absolutely possible, man. It feels like this guy can do almost anything. Jung, this is what I wanted to talk about before is, he is a legend coming from the mobile version of Kartrider, but to come into Kartrider Drift League and move to a new platform, KDL, on keyboard and mouse, obviously the understanding of the game, the understanding of lines, the understanding of drifting, of collisions and sweeping, all of that, it exists. But to come in and play mechanically as well as he has here in the KDL preseason, just phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of fans in Korea wondering, where were you during the original Kartrider League as well if you're this good? And right now, once again, ROX shooting out forward. They're keeping that 1-2 position. And this is my curiosity of Sensation. Because of the 4-man roster they have, they often rely on keeping first place and then having someone sweeping that middle of the line to cause chaos. But right now, ROX isn't giving them a chance to do so.
And Jung just working his way from the middle of the pack all the way into top 2 right now as he's going to try and zone out the Emperor himself, Hojun, who is fighting to try and get into the top 3. He does not want to let ROX solidify this 1-2 position with some nice sweeping and coming here from Doozy.
Yeah, meanwhile, we're keeping an eye on Vega towards the middle of the pack as well. Can he make sure that he causes chaos? He actually bumps Speed all the way to the wall, and Speed's going to lose a lot of speed off of that. That gains such a huge advantage for ROX is to keep 1-3-4.
Yeah, Vega right now in a fantastic position as, I mean, ROX just buying themselves a lot of room coming into these hairpin turns here on the final lap. Jong, it's him against the Emperor right now.
Yeah, then he doesn't have to do too much, right? They have a healthy lead that even if Hojin is able to overtake, they'll still be able to get 2, 3, 5, 6 and try to keep the win here. Hojin doing whatever he can.
No!
He's trying to greed for that last bit, and he's just going to end off dropping. Yeah. And his teammates making the same mistakes as well.
I mean, Hojin, he knew that he had to go for something crazy to try and get a comeback going. So he takes the greediest possible line, but that's what you got to do. You got to risk it to get the biscuit sometimes, Chobra. Yeah. And Hojin, he went for it, didn't fall in his lap that time. ROX going to come away with track number 1. And man, I just am continuously impressed with Jong. Did not set another track record here, but once again, in first place.
Yeah, just takes first place again. And, you know, ROX, the way they're playing these tracks, just very impressive. And Jung oftentimes kind of filling all the roles they need, right? Sometimes he'll do the sweeping roll for the first lap, and then he'll find the way to really bring out his own builds to get back into the first place. And just there, we even saw Vega doing a great work of sweeping, you know, speed rather, completely out of control there towards the end of the track. And that means that Hojin, he had to shoot for first, or at least, you know, go forward and knock out Jung out of first, right towards the later drift so his teammates can catch up, and just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, ROX was just in commanding position on the top of the ranks there after that clutch sweeping came in, and goes to show what a team sport Kartrider Drift is. As we're getting ready to go into track number 2, it's going to be Village Boom Hill Tunnel. Will Sensation be able to start the comeback here in speed mode? Pressure is on here for Sensation. This is a do-or-die match if they want to reach the KDL Preseason playoffs. And so far, down track number 1 to ROX. They do not want to go to match point.
No, we'll see if they can just secure the speed mode and see what they've cooked up here for item mode, but still a little ways to go. Of course, here on Boom Hill Tunnel, just a single lap run all the way to the finish line, and Sensation, they're going to want to continue. I mean, you can see the way they're playing. Oftentimes, it's still the same strategy of keep the first 2 positions and have someone sweeping. But right now, it's down to speed to be able to do that. So Percent just making sure that he can help cause some chaos so that Guard is able to stay in front.
There is some intense team fighting going down. I feel like just non-stop collisions right here. And the distance between first and 8th place is almost non-existent. Just these players continuing to shuffle ranks right now. You can see ROX trying to find some entrance here. Jung right now all the way in the back. Sensation does have the better position with positions 2, 3, and 4. So for Doozy, it's going to be on him to maintain that pole position there for ROX.
Guard! Oh, what a great way to block here towards the little zigzags on the 90 degrees, but he's going to lose enough speed on that. And Jung, he still finds a way to overtake. Can he shoot forward into the top 3?
Let's see if he can do it right now. Doozy holding on to that first place. ROX ahead in points overall. A little bit of a collision right there. So Sensation, they have an opportunity to close it out, but it's still going to be ROX. They had the breathing room there right at the end to deliver the 2, 3, 5, 6. And I mean, even with that small hiccup, ROX just coming through with another track win, going up 2-0 here against Sensation.
Yeah, and this is, I think, where you really start to see the value of a player like Jung, right? It's the fact that a Sensation, actually, the play was so good. They were keeping the lead. They had Guard sweeping and stopping, actually, to block on those 90-degree turns to make sure that his teammates could shoot forward. But Jung recovers so well from that alongside his teammates, and he's able to help secure 2nd and 3rd for his team, you know, giving them the potential to get the W eventually. They get the right positions to do so. And just an impressive showing coming out from ROX.
It feels like Jung is one of the most successful players in KDL in terms of doing exactly what you said, starting, you know, in the middle of the pack, supporting his teammates there, and then as they're coming in to the final laps, to the finish line, he's always able to close the distance and almost always contesting a podium spot. Is, I mean, the speed A's here for ROX just carrying the load right now as they are on match point. One more win will give them a speed squad victory here. Let's go to Desert Construction Camp.
and they're off. At this point for Sensation, you have to start wondering, do we need to have at least just one player completely on the mark against Jung? Because we don't have an answer for him yet.
It's actually that's an interesting idea too, just having a player try to follow Jung and try and tag him as best he can, but I don't know if you can catch up to this guy, man. He is already in first place, and we've seen what he can do coming out from the middle of the pack to surpass everyone and reach first, but coming in pole position, look at the distance that he's creating, not just himself with these great lines, but also with Doozy supporting with some fantastic sweeping.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons they're doing this time around is that because of the track that Sensation chose, right? Construction Chaos, towards the end here, there's so many ways where Sensation can exactly bring that chaos to the middle of the pack. So Jung's saying, you know what, let's just get ahead, and I'll try to stay in first place and have the rest of the team just fill in the positions we need to win.
So far, it is working as Sensation's trying his best to close the gap, but Jung not giving him any breathing room. Hojin also hot on the tails here, the top two racers here for ROX. This is a dangerous turn, though, coming in. Will Doozy be able to body block?
Now just taking use of the fact that it's a bit wider. Doozy, he is focused on speed, but now he has to focus on Hojin. Hojin was trying to take advantage of that time that he was distracted, and he's able to catch up for a little bit.
So much momentum there for Hojin as he's able to take first place. Now Jung trying to fight back with some excellent line taking right there. We'll be able to sweep it from him. And man, Doozy, such a team player. He just keeps coming back to the top two positions and giving Jung the support he needs to hold on to that rank 1 spot.
Yeah, meanwhile, we see in the bottom right, Spell doing everything he can to keep Speed and Percent both in 6th through 8th place. He's doing what he can. Speed finally breaks free of that, but here towards the end, will we see someone taking the risk here? Maybe even between Doozy and Jung, just to make sure that the rest of their teammates can catch up.
Hojin has finally been able to take that pole position, but Doozy, I mean, he's fighting. It's going neck and neck right here coming into the finish line, as this is such a close race. One of the closer speed races we've had so far today. A Sensation fighting for their life here in Speed Squad.
Yeah, Guard doing a great job of blocking the out-to-in line here from Jung. Jung was looking for that one opportunity. Doozy in first, but Jung has to get third if he wants to be able to close it out for his team. And they're getting the 2 and 3. Is it going to be enough? No!
Wow, Sensations. Hojin, the Emperor, coming through in the clutch with the first place finish. They're going to eke out the win by 1 point. Sensation barely placing above ROX there to put themselves on the board here in Speed Squad. We're going to a map number 4 here. Sensation keeping their Speed Squad hopes alive because you know you do not want this to go down into item mode. You want to be in the best position. Sensation, they're fighting for their life here in the KDL preseason, man. They need to keep this momentum going.
Absolutely, a much needed track victory here just to continue here on to speed mode. And well played by Hojin, just keeping that lead. But on top of that, I think Guard, while he wasn't able to completely block off Jung towards the end, it was enough to make sure that Jung or Doozy couldn't get into first place, meaning that they were denied that much momentum to make sure that, you know, if we just keep the middle of the pack, Sensation will bring that win. Well played, but I will say, even that track, you know, it doesn't go the way that Sensation normally likes it to, right? They don't have full control of someone like Guard or Percent really sweeping out the whole middle of the pack. So curious to see how that changes here as we go to track 4.
It feels like Sensation is on a lot of pressure right now. Playing here against ROX, it's still match point. ROX, one more track win will give them the Speed Squad victory heading into item mode. Let's see if they can close it out here on Zigzag Timberlake. And we're off here on Zigzag Timberland. Let's see who's able to get the jump out of the gates. It looks like Doozy, Hojin, Spell, and Speed all gunning for these top 4 spots.
Yeah, meanwhile, ROX towards the later part of the entire run here. Jung and Vega, they're just doing what they can to keep up in their Nitro, keeping up the team boost, just staying ahead early on here in the first 2 laps. So ROX always in position to overtake anyone from Sensation.
Certainly feels that way, and man, Doozy's been coming through in the clutch so much today here for this team, not only with his sweeping, but right now with his running, just doing his best job to try and slow down the Sensation players and give his teammates the opportunity they need to close the distance. We have a bit of a collision right there, Spell losing some momentum, but as it is right now, it's still yet another tight race.
Yeah, just Guard was all the way up front just on his lonesome, but his teammates will catch up now. So a little bit of help to keep Doozy off his back. Doozy doing what he can to make sure Jung can stay ahead. Now ROX, if Jung stays ahead, it comes down to Doozy and Vega to keep control because Spell currently still locked in 8th place.
And Doozy, it feels like he is locked in right now when it comes to these swipes. We'll see if he's able to deliver some more clutch plays here for his team as Jung trying to solidify that lead. It's now Speed on his tail, trying to take that podium spot. that rank 1 position heading into the final lap.
Yeah, Jung is ahead in terms of overall boost and team boost compared to speed, though. So I think Jung, right now, the call is probably coming out. Just stay in your build, right? Keep to your lines. Make sure you keep first place. It comes down to the rest of ROX. If they can support Dutzy now securing that 1-2 position.
I'm telling you, man, Dutzy's doing such a good job of playing the sweeper role here at the front of the pack. I mean, look at the space that he's buying his teammate. Tojin's going to try and take the tightener line, and he does get away with it there to close the distance there on Jung. And him and Speed, they're going to have to draft off of each other and build a little bit more team boost to try and close the distance, because I mean, that's maybe 50 meters separating them from Jung.
Yeah.
If they don't close that off, it's going to be hard pressed for Sensation to come away with a track win.
I mean, trying to take over Jung, I think, is out of the question, but if they can keep the 2-3-4, that's going to be how they win this track. Now, Vega comes down to he's actually going to be able to really scuffle for that spot. He takes over not just 4, but 5 for his teammates as well. So now Hojin, the pressure's on him to try to catch up to first.
Unfortunate collision right there for Sensation. One of their players running into the wall right now, and now the ball's in ROX's courts, 500 meters away. Will Jung be able to hold on to this? It's him against the Emperor here.
Oh, he blocks him off. Hojin not able to come forward, and they're trying to stop and block out the rest of ROX as well, but it doesn't come to fruition. Sensation throwing everything at the wall, and none of it sticks. Jung coming in first place, securing enough points for his rest of the team to just come in idly in 3rd and 4th.
And you could see how happy ROX is after that victory. So much relief on them coming into that final lap. I mean, it must have been a breath of fresh air seeing that collision, knowing that you no longer have to contest the 2-3-4. Let Jung do his thing, let him deliver that first place and deliver a win, and that's going to be ROX winning the Speed Squad set.
Yeah, and setting a new record here for Jung as well, so very well played. But, I mean, Jung, he just had no one to contest him for the entire time. Really came down to holding a 2, 3, and 4, but at the end of the day, Vega also able to really provide that support where he puts enough pressure where Sensation, has to fight for that spot. Eventually, one of them bumps into the wall, and even at the end, Jung just, shoots so far forward that Sensation then makes a call of, okay, well, the most we can do is try to just completely block the rest of ROX. Doesn't happen. No collisions towards the end here.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the success for ROX in this Speed Series in particular was just what Dutzy was able to bring to the table in his sweeping in the late stages of these games, because, I mean, Jung, he would always be contesting these top spots, and you would see Dutzy right behind him just giving him space. And that's basically why on that track, Jung was in time trial mode. He had no one colliding with him. There was nobody trying to draft off of him. There were no threats. He just has to play his own game, do his build, take the best possible lines that he can, and when you're in a position like that, it's very comfortable for your Speed Ace.
Absolutely, and now with item mode, it's going to be Vega, who just did a great run there in Zigzag Timberland, being subbed out for Plan Z, the item ace. Now, you gotta imagine all eyes, all pressure over on Plan Z, as if you're the item ace and you still don't have an item win here, item set win for ROX Esports, you can't help but imagine, it has to come down to Plan Z. I can't say it's his fault individually, but as the player himself, I'm sure he's feeling that pressure.
Yeah, that's the kind of responsibility that comes with being a Speed Ace or being an item ace on your team, is they're going to expect you to deliver. We'll see if he's able to do it here as we get a look at the item track list. We're going to start things out on Glacier, Polar Halfpipe, move to World Tour, London Night, Gangnam Streets, Icebreaker Pass, and then close things out in a potential map number 5 on Factory Cogwheel Crush.
Yeah, CF ROX, they do have 3 of their picks, with Sensation taking speed priority during the coin flip, so hopefully they can bring it to fruition. ROX currently only has 3 track wins in item mode overall. See if they've been able to shore up some of those weaknesses.
A 16.7% win rate in item mode. Not the ideal situation, but Sensation, they've been having a tough run of it as well. We'll see which one of these teams is able to light a fire and start winning in item mode as we go to Glacier Polar Halfpipe.
And the race begins. Item mode, we're just going to see guard. Make sure you can pick up double items as well. Surely just cycle through that Thunderbolt at any time. There we go. Just really wanting to get through the items that can really keep everyone, packed up together towards the end. Those magnets probably going to stick all the way to that last 3rd lap.
On a 3-lapper like this one, probably going to be a lot of attacks coming in the early stages, as there's just so much terrain to go through, and the way that things kind of shake out in terms of how items are distributed and the way that attacks work, you really don't get too much advantage for trying to pull away from the pack. That's oftentimes why we see players, especially with magnets in play, even try to slow down when they're in leading positions. Kind of like we see right here.
So Plansy just completely trying to deny Hojin any items. Hojin says, whatever, screw it, I'll just take the longer track here to get some items there. But, you know, it's things like that, right? That if you're able to really disrupt their idea of trying to cycle through these items, I mean, you know, who knows what you're going to end up with towards lap 3. You want to increase your chances of gaining that arsenal first.
And look at the way things are going right now. I mean, we're only on lap number 2, so we're about halfway through this map, but I'm kind of looking at Tutsi here for ROX with the Nitrous and with the Magnet. If he can close the distance a little bit with some attacks from his team, then maybe he'll be the one that's, you know, trying to set himself up for that final push. He's going to hold on to the Magnet, cycle through some Nitros as ROX just going to continue to try to close the distance.
Yeah, so Spell right now in first place just has the double shield. He'll constantly cycle through at least one of those to see what else he can get. He was gunning for 2 boxes, it looks like, but he only gets 1 there, so still stuck with just 1 shield on the side of Spell.
Yep, Clancy now will be the player that has both a Nitrous and a Magnet here for ROX. We'll see if any items get used to try and go onto that ledge right there. Is actually Sensation with 2 players up there on the shortcut.
Uses his Magnet on Guard, who boosts forward as well, because Guard just had double boost, so they're able to make sure they get 1-2. They both have a boost as well, so even if they get magneted, one of them can still shoot forward. The UFO comes in, but Hojin, he actually gets hit by the Wisp, but they body block as Guard is able to shoot forward. He's not going to get hit by any items, and he'll lock in first place, bringing home the first track win.
Yeah, Sensation just had so many players that were in contesting positions heading into the end of that lap, and it just went their way. I love that play by them, just both going for the shortcut, closing the distance, and really putting the pressure on the opposing team, because you know that ROX, they were trying to throw everything they possibly could at Sensation when they saw that shakedown, and it was going to be Guard that actually came through in the clutch there to come in with a win.
Yeah, I mean, excellent choice, right? Looking at the items you have, because I was curious, because Hojin had both the Magnet and the boost, but if you're not able to really position yourself for the Magnet for the better, you know, how else are you going to use it? Oh, let's just both get ahead. Get that way, if one of us gets magneted or UFO'd, we'll still have someone else to boost back forward, secure that first place spot, and that is how it pans out. So Sensation showing a little bit more improvement in terms of just having a clear idea of how they want to play through this item mode.
And that was a really clever strategy, specifically here on Glacier Polar Halfpipe, because of that shortcut. So I'm liking this new Sensation that we're seeing today. I mean, this is a team, both of these teams, in fact, have not yet won a series in item mode. So they've been trying to put the pieces together and figure out what works. And for Sensation, it's been tough as well because they don't have an item ace. They're running a 4-man roster.
Yeah, and for them to try to always balance what they need to work on throughout the KDL, I'm sure it's a lot of work, but showing some improvement, bringing some life here for Sensation. They desperately need this item mode if we want to go to an ace match as we go into World Tour London night.
Sensation looking to build some momentum here in London. So they desperately want to force that ace match and get a redemption, having lost 2 consecutive ace matches coming into this series. You know they're gunning not only for that playoff spot, but for a little bit of pride right here. If you had the Emperor on your team, you do not want to disappoint.
No, you definitely don't, especially with, you know, 3 of their members out of 4 dropping out in the round of 32 in solos as well. You know, if you have a huge fan base, you don't want to disappoint them and not have anything to show for as we go towards the, you know, regular postseason here for preseason 1 of KDL.
Yeah, but I'm liking what we saw out of them there on the first map. It seems like they had a pretty solid game plan there on the halfpipe, and we'll see if they're able to continue that success here on London night as a couple UFOs coming in. It's almost like an alien invasion here with how many UFOs are popping.
London, what's going on here? So many UFO sightings.
There's another one.
And this is actually, I think, the most UFOs we've seen in a single track here with the KDL.
In like a 15-second span, we had 3 different UFOs pop. I think
another one,
got another one. It's crazy. It's War of the Worlds here.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone getting abducted over here on London Nights. Percentage is going to get slowed down. Now, this does mean not a single person will ever be able to stay ahead.
Yeah.
But we can already tell as we go towards the later half of this race, the magnets and boosts now starting to be saved up.
Yeah, and this is when attacks usually kind of start to slow down a little bit as players want to hold on to those coveted key items that are going to be, you know, the items that push you across the finish line is finally a UFO does get denied there. I couldn't catch which team denied it with the EMP, but...
Yeah, Dutzy with his EMP there, blocking it off. He's actually able to cycle it out for a shield as well, so quite the ideal scenario here for ROX. You got shield and magnet, and then magnet boost for Spell, so Spell can at any time really try to catch back forward as Dutzy takes the aggro of the items. He is going to get UFO'd though, so he's a bit out of the picture.
Yeah, that is troublesome there. Sensation continuing to maintain a pretty strong position here heading into the last lap. I mean, there's only so much track left, and Hojin right now, he's going to try and gun for a better item selection here, using the Nitrous as a shield. Percent right now in first place, but there isn't a follow-up boost. There is another magnet. Percent is going to try his best to close it out. Actually, Guard coming in from the outside out of nowhere, blindsiding not only ROX, but also me, as he just kind of comes through to deliver the win there for Sensation. I mean, I was looking at Percent and I was just saying to myself, he doesn't have the speed. There isn't enough momentum here, but it's actually Guard that carries the freight, and Sensation gets their second track win.
Yeah, I'd love to see the replay, because I was looking at the same thing where Percent used his magnet on his teammate to catch forward because he had magnet and boost, and I thought, well, this is too early because we can see that ROX has a couple more magnets. They can always bring Percent back. That's exactly what happens, but at the end of the day, the real winner was Guard, who just avoids all that attention from literally everyone, including us casters, and is able to sneak into that first place right in the last second.
I mean, there's so much action that happens as we turn into these finish lines. There's so many items that people have in their inventories that, you know, a lot of things, it's hidden by the fog of war. We can only see the players in front of the racer that we're following. So Guard just, you know, truly coming out of nowhere and blindsiding everybody. I'm sure we'll get a replay of that at some point later here today. As Sensation is looking to close it out, Chobra, they might be getting their first win here. Let's go to World Tour, Gangnam Streets.
As we begin here on Gangnam Streets, we mentioned earlier that at least one of these teams will finally get their first item mode win. Currently, Sensation primed in position as they go for a little bit of fun here from Guard, just going through those spin turns to keep up his momentum there.
Yeah, I mean, you're not building a drift gauge or anything here in item mode. It's not about that, but it's really just about setting your team up to be in the best position to support each other for that final push. So Guard having a little bit of fun there with his magnet right out of the gates is, you know, things starting to shake up. Some more attacks coming in. Nice lock there on the water. Wisp avoids the banana as well.
Yeah, just plenty of space here on Gangnam Streets to avoid all sorts of attacks, right? The water bombs. I was about to say rarely doing anything, and Jung gets hit dead on right in the center.
And Hojin too,
yeah,
man.
Hojin just trying to make sure he can get the items there. But in the first lap, okay, fine. You know, all the water bombs coming through. See if that keeps up towards the end here.
Yeah, Thunderbolts as well. It's usually the way things go here in item mode of the KDL preseason. Lots of attacks coming in here in the first couple of laps as teams try to put themselves in good positions. You see Sensation right now actually holding, at least for a moment there, the top 4 spots. As now we start to see things slow down. We see some players starting to hold on to those Angel Shields, holding on to those Nitrous, and those highly coveted magnets.
Yeah, the magnets, unless you have 2, we can see most players trying to save at least 1 towards the end here. Now, a lot of these EMPs and UFOs towards the end probably going to get cycled out, at least, you know, the EMPs. As soon as they see the EMP used, it's going to be the UFO coming out as well.
Yep, those items already cycled out, as I feel like right now, both players, or both teams, I should say, kind of trying to figure out exactly what their game plan is going to be, which players are going to be the ones gunning to cross that finish line first, and how best can we support those players. So right now, for Sensation, it seems like they have a lot of options. You know, Guard has a pretty good setup right here. He has both the magnet and the Nitrous. Hojin does as well. We have a couple Angel Shields too. So, you know, both teams pretty fully stacked on items.
Yeah, we actually are going to see that Thunderbolt come through, and then ROX using their own Angel to counter any sort of counter attack, and that allows them to stick ahead. We had Sensation earlier taking 1 through 4, having a steady lead, but it's going to be Dutzy currently out front, and now he only has that magnet, so he's not going to be able to defend for himself. He's currently getting dragged behind by 2 different members of Sensation.
But Guard with both a magnet and a Nitrous, we'll see if he's able to close this one out, as that is just a catapult. I mean, that was so much speed right there, saving that for the last moment. Using the magnet off of Hojin and then nitrousing on top of it, just about as fast as it gets here in item mode. As Sensation showing some life.
Yeah, and this seems to be the new game plan for them, right? Is just if we know we can always keep at least one boost and then a magnet and a boost on someone else, the one with the boost can go forward, then use that extra speed from the one behind, use magnet and boost to slingshot forward. That seems to be the game plan from Sensation. Rather than using the magnets aggressively, it's to set each other up. There's always that, you know, double way you can use that magnet, either off of your teammate or your opponent. Sometimes you use it defensively to drag someone behind from that lead, but at the end of the day, what matters is we're going to an ace match.
Man, I cannot be more hyped for this. I mean, even when we got here today, before we started any of the matches, we were talking about the potential of a Jung versus Hojin ace match. I'm not sure if that's going to be the picks as we're waiting for the teams. You know, they're communicating amongst each other. Sensation kind of famously decided by Rochambeau who their aces was going to be at one point here in the KDL Preseason.
They have done that. It does seem like, you know, looking at some of those videos from behind the scenes, Sensation, I think they want Speed to become their kind of go-to regular Speed ace.
Yeah.
But Hojin, you know, with the experience he has on stage of going through that pressure, just saying, you know, if you're not feeling well today, I'll take over. I'll take that. We've seen both of them enter the ace match so far for Sensation. Out of 3 times, Hojin has come in twice. Speed has come out once. Only Hojin has had a victory in the ace match for Sensation.
They're going to tease us with this replay, man.
Yeah.
Gonna have to wait and see who it's gonna be, but really fantastic play here from Sensation. Honestly, seeming a lot improved over their previous item matches. It seemed like this time they kind of had a cohesive plan on a lot of different tracks.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just having that understanding of, okay, if we can always stay, you know, have one person out in front, and then I can always magnet off of you, we don't have to worry about what the opponents have, right? We can turn on our Angels as well at the same time. So just going for that for their first ever item mode win. So we're making the assumption that most likely it's Hojin or Speed. You gotta imagine it's Jung on the side of ROX. I mean, he's known as the ace match killer over on KRPL. He's currently undefeated here in KDL as well.
Ooh, gonna be Terracotta Twister here on the ace match too.
Okay, bit of a longer track as well. And, you know, there is that kind of tricky tomb section towards the end, but outside of that, still lots of areas where you can get in, you know, some extra cuts or swift cuts if you need to catch up and boost gauge. So curious to see who comes out.
Should be a very competitive track. I mean, you got to think that it's going to be Jung coming out from ROX. He's undefeated so far in ace matches. And okay, it's going to be Speed here for Team Sensation. So they're going to let the young up-and-comer, not the Emperor, come here and try and test Jung because, again, for Sensation, this is truly do or die. If they lose this ace match, their playoff hopes are completely gone here in the KDL preseason. And ROX, they want to try and solidify their position and, you know, fortify that top 4 spot.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? I mean, ROX, again, all your wins are off of your ace match. It's always been Jung, who you've depended on. Can he do it again one more time for ROX to get that 4th win here during the round robin, or will Sensation stay alive here in the round robin? Let's go to World Tour Terracotta Twister. And they're off. Speed versus Jung. Jung versus Speed. Now, Jung, he's won his ace matches in very different fashions, right? He's won one where he's just not even given a chance for a draft. He's won another where he's barely able to catch up and boost gauge and ekes it out in the last second. We'll see how it comes down against Speed today.
Yeah, Jung, it feels like he can handle almost any situation that you throw your way. As Speed right now taking an early lead. Jung not really in drafting distance right now as his line wasn't quite as efficient here as Speed's, but I mean, he's so good at making up ground. You see it already as this distance continues to close.
Yeah, now earlier it seemed like Jung maybe had a bit of a blip there on his own build where he had to get a bit of a wider cut just to keep up and boost gauge, so they're just about even for the time being. He's actually saving up here.
Ooh, sweeping is gonna remove some of that momentum there from Jung. Speed trying to capitalize on this situation, but Jung, he's so good at closing the distance. He's already back into drafting range as we enter lap number 2.
Yeah, now it's just a bit of a mind game as well from both sides, right? Jung, the one currently putting pressure on Speed, just trying to block him. The draft has already come through one. Speed just trying to deny that extra out to in course line from Jung, but Jung is staying so craftily right behind to make sure he can draft at any point forward. This time a nice block from Jung.
Yeah, a little bit of body blocking there from Jung after he takes the lead, and now it's Speed who has to play catch up here as we're getting ready to enter the tomb here on Terracotta Twister. Jung earlier was able to take a fantastic line. We'll see if he's able to do it right now. These racers are so close, Cobra.
Yeah, Jung cutting in close towards the inner line. Now he purposely blocked Speed before they got indoors so that he had a bit more breathing room. He's also making sure he takes a very tight line. Speed actually taking a cleaner line there, but Jung's just too far ahead, and Jung actually blocks him on that draft. Jung just making sure that he can stay ahead. There is one more opportunity for a draft here. Jung slows him down again to deny that draft. Jung just shoots forward. He's going to lock it in.
Jung's gonna do it! Once again, his 4th ace match win as Jung comes through in the clutch. Can he be beaten, as he might be the best individual racer that we have here in the KDL? The ace of aces here. ROX's lifeblood delivers the win against Sensation Speed. And if you're a Sensation fan, you got to be feeling bad about that one. I mean, your postseason hopes, they're dashed here in the KDL preseason, but what a story here for ROX's Jung, coming in from the mobile kart rider game, the first KDL preseason, playing on keyboard and just blowing everybody out of the water. It's so phenomenal what we have seen from him. Unbelievable play.
I mean, you saw him calling it out, right? Just saying, 4 in a row now. 4 ace matches, 4 wins. He's beaten 4 different players in the KDL in ace matches, also bringing home the only victories that ROX has as a team as the Speed ace here. And I mean, you can see it in Sensation's face, the Speed. He knew there was so much pressure on him to bring home this victory. And here's the thing is that if you're Speed, you can't really feel too bad. It's not that you were playing any part of that too poorly. It's just that Jung had just the better awareness towards the end on exactly when that draft was going to come into play for Speed, and he actually denies any overtaking during that draft, which means that Speed can't regain that momentum.
Jung's game sense is just out of this world. It feels like he always knows what lines to take to close the distance. He's able to readily anticipate his opponent's lines and intercept them, block them, do not give them any ground, as ROX going to defeat Sensation, winning 3-1 in Speed. Sensation fighting back in item mode to force the ace match, but there is truly no stopping Jung.
Yeah, man, I am curious. I want to see how long this win streak goes for him for ace matches alone, right? On just how many can you string together, because it's also just such a high-pressure situation. I mean, you can see it in Jung's face. No matter how much everyone calls him the ace match killer, he's always still so nervous before that match, and he's so happy when he can bring home that win, because he knows that just one mistake, I mean, everyone's such a good racer when it comes down to that ace match. So one mistake and you could be knocked out, and Jung this time just making sure that, he's getting the draft when he wants it, right? He's always staying behind just to make sure he doesn't waste that opportunity. He gets it on the wider turns. He denies the first chance that Speed has as they're able to enter that tomb. And then as they're going through the 90-degree turns, he actually just completely blocks the draft coming out from Speed. Just incredible choices from Jung.
Yeah, and just delivering under pressure when it matters most. I mean, you said it, every single win that ROX has been able to convert, it came through in the ace match, and Jung delivered every single time. And I mean, what a story for him, but also for ROX Esports. Like, this is a great start for them here in the KDL preseason. And, if they can continue to try and play this game, we talk a lot about how good Liiv SANDBOX is, how good the KWANGDONG FREECS are, but if you put those teams up against ROX, and ROX is somehow able to force an ace match, are you going to beat Jung? I mean, I don't know at this point.
Yeah.
4-0.
Yeah,
he's beaten more than half of the teams. Half of the opposing. There's only 7 opposing teams.
True.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's beaten them on his own pretty much, right, to take into that ace match. And I think that's the other thing for if you're ROX Esports, you also have to just think about if you're looking far ahead, right? Just the brand power that a player like Jung brings. I mean, I gotta say, to me personally, we can talk about, obviously, Hojun as the Emperor, Insu as that one who started to really rival Hojun, Neil, currently just this worldwide superstar in Kart Rider. But all that aside, I think Jung leaves the biggest impact in my mind of just what type of racer he is and kind of the highest expectations, right, on where does your potential end? Because I feel like we have a good grasp of Neil, like why he's so good, what he's good at. Same thing with Insu, same thing with players like Hojun. But then you look at Jung and I'm like, okay, well, what more can you show me? Because I think there's more.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal, too, coming in because, I mean, he comes through like this on keyboard after playing on mobile is just unbelievable. I mean, you would imagine there'd be some kind of mechanical issue.
I mean, you got to learn it, all new on your own as well. But we can talk more about that as we take a look at the standings so far and the results of today. First of all, we'll go through the team match results. Of course, earlier, here are some of the players we were kind of comparing Jung to, right? It's, Insu and the crew, or Neil and the crew, depending on kind of who you've been following longer on the side of Liiv SANDBOX. But they get a clean 6-1, only dropping one item mode set, or one item mode track there against Planet.
Yeah, great teamwork from them. Of course, Jimin, their former item ace right now, playing in speed mode. to sub for the injured Sungha, who is now playing in item. And they're still able to convert that into a 6-1 win. I mean, just goes to show the depth of this roster, the kind of cohesion that they have as a team, as Liiv, SANDBOX, and these guys right here, the FREECS. From top to bottom, they seem to be the rosters with undoubtedly the most depth. I mean, we keep talking about how good that Jung has been so far in the KDL preseason, but, you know, it is a team effort. And to get to the ace match, you have to win at least one series. KWANGDONG FREECS, it feels like they hardly ever lose any.
Yes. I mean, it is, in fact, KWANGDONG FREECS, who, you know, they're one of the teams that beat down ROX, right? Not allowing that ace match to even happen. And the fact that their item modes are looking better as well, really just solidifying KWANGDONG FREECS as the top team with a 4-man roster to boot. So, you know, kind of an interesting setup here from KWANGDONG FREECS, but a clean 6-0 sweep against ReBoot puts ReBoot in a little bit of danger of making it to the playoffs. Meanwhile, we have ROX really solidifying themselves in the top 4 as they beat Sensation in the ace match.
Yeah, I mean, the legend of Jung continues, but of course it was a team effort to get there in the first place. You know, coming through there in speed, Tsuji did such a great job of supporting the teams. Also, you know, Vega in Spell holding up the rear. It's not just, you know, you getting first place in speed and then everything falling in your lap. It's a team effort from top to bottom. And, you know, you got to feel that the players on ROX Esports are kind of comfortable knowing that they have that ace in the hole should they need it. I mean, if you're just a player that's not Jung on ROX, that's a weight off your shoulders knowing it's okay, let's just win one series and let the king do his thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you always have that fallback plan, and that also goes to show that, you know, whenever ROX is able to really clean up their item mode with their item ace Plansy, then they'll truly become a force to be reckoned with, right? Because then they'll become strong in both modes, and then they'll always have the ace to fall back on. So here's how the standings shake up after that. ROX currently 4-2, sitting in 3rd place. Now, Aura has not played their 6th match yet, so we'll have to wait until the weekend to see if Aura keeps up with ROX or if they get knocked down, you know, and put in a little bit of risk here in 4th place.
And with ReBoot losing their match today and ROX winning, ROX, you know, they're solidifying their position to make a postseason run of it. Sensation, unfortunately, with a 1-5 score overall, are mathematically eliminated from qualifying for the postseason. Top 4 is the cutoff, but, you know, in the middle of the pack behind KWANGDONG FREECS and Liiv, SANDBOX, it's still very close.
Yeah, I mean, anything's doable. You know, on the side of Planet and Finale, the reason we're not saying they're completely out yet is because they also have not played their 6th match yet. So Sensation just, you know, Sensation and ROX the first one to play that 6th match today. Unfortunately, Sensation will be mathematically knocked out. Of course, they still will have that one extra match to play through. Meanwhile, you know, Aura, ReBoot, and then Planet and Finale, there's still a little bit of hope for them to shake things up here for that top 4 spot. Curious to see who eventually makes it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, if they can win their next 2 matches with very favorable set scores, you know, they might win in a tiebreaker situation to push them into the postseason.
Yeah, and you know, what's interesting is ROX actually, despite being in 3rd place, actually has a -6 round score because they always go to the ace match. So that's something to keep an eye on as well, right? If we end up getting some weird tie situation in 3rd place through 5th, I mean, ROX could be losing out on that mathematically, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I mean, ROX, they're right now 3-15 overall in item mode, so it's been tough for them. And let's hold that thought as we look at a preview for our weekend match on Saturday. It will be Planet playing off against Sensation as match number 1, and then ReBoot versus Aura in match number 2, and then round of 16 winners match. You are not going to want to miss that. Cool Ding Knock World, Jimin Yunsu, Insu, and Speed.
I swear in the top 16, so it's going to be stacked no matter what, but just already looking at the names, right? You've got both of the Park Soo duos, Hyunsu and Insu, Jimin from SANDBOX as well. Then we've got Cool, who was showing some great play earlier, and Speed, kind of the only hope left for Sensation to have any sort of showing in the postseason here, both in solos or team. Now, in the team matches as well, very important matches. Sensation, while they might be knocked out, it's a very important match for Planet to be able to secure that extra win to keep their hopes alive. And ReBoot and Aura, again, I mean, both those teams, the ones we've talked about, vying for, you know, trying to get barely into that 4th place cutoff. We'll see who's able to take that win.
Yeah, and Planet, for them, they're going to be pretty happy about this matchup against Sensation, considering that Planet, up until this point, has been one of the best teams in item mode so far. So you got to think that, you know, if you're Planet coming in to prepare against this, yes, Sensation did look better today in item mode, but you're probably more comfortable. And even if you lose in speed, which is possible considering, you know, they have the Emperor there on Sensation, well, Planet, they can still force that ace match. They can start to prepare for that kind of situation. And, you know, maybe they are able to convert 2 consecutive wins and contest a top 4 spot.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be something great for Planet, of course, to look forward to. Meanwhile, in Sensation, while you might be knocked out, again, we're still just in the preseason of KDL, so just try to get more of these reps in, right, and try to figure out what is our formula here. And I think probably something they'll focus on is that item mode. While they beat ROX today, let's be very honest, that's nothing to brag about. ROX also, was on a losing streak in their item mode, so curious to see if Sensation, they're able to bring out some more, item builds where they're able to not just rely on their own builds, but try to counteract what their opponents are doing.
Yeah, but it was a good start for them here. And of course, this is just preseason 1. There's a lot of KDL as we played. And guys, that's going to be it for us today. We'll be back again on Saturday with another thrilling match. You don't want to miss it. See you next time.